I love you, but if we're gonna make this work, you gotta be more than Mr. Incredible. You know that, don't you?
So long as you both shall live,
I do.
I pronounce this couple husband and wife.
As long as we both shall live, no matter what happens.
Hey, come on. We're superheroes. What could happen?
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where each week we enter the world of a great film, we explore its themes, the history, the filmmaking, and the influence it has on us today. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Roca. I'm a voiceover artist, host, writer, producer over at Collider, and I don't know, all-around lover of movies, and especially comic book movies, and excited for today, because in essence we're doing an animated feature and a comic book movie today, or a superhero movie today, rather, and we couldn't think of a better person to come on as a guest, Steve.
Yes, we are welcoming back our favorite Cine-Files guest, animation producer and writer, Michael Vogel. Welcome back to the Cine-Files.
Well, thanks, guys. It's lovely to be here again.
It's annoying, though. We have to keep changing the patch on his jacket for the club that he's in.
It's true. Well, but regardless, he's in a club all by himself.
He really is in a
league of his own.
Don't tell him that. I don't need the head any bigger than it already is.
I have it on tape. I can record it. I can listen to it over and over again.
And you've hinted at it very well. So I think at this point, really, and if everyone looked at the title on the episode, you all know that today we are here to discuss The Incredibles.
Which is really an incredible movie.
Hey-o.
It is an incredible movie. And by the way, we want have our one of our Patreons to thank, Neil Martin.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Nice, Neil Martin.
For recommending this movie. And we would love to hear what you think of The Incredibles and why you wanted us to review it on the Cine-Files.
Yeah.
Hi, Steve. Hi, John. This is Niall Martin. I am so sorry that this is very late, but I am thrilled that you two will be talking about The Incredibles. The Incredibles is one of my favorite films and has been ever since I saw it in the 4th grade. And I think one of the main reasons is it takes a genre I love, the superhero genre, and totally subverts it. Instead of having a civilian being thrust into the superhero life, it takes a superhero and demotes them to the level of civilian and then asks, what happens next? That question is explored perfectly in this film, and the extension of that question is answered in Incredibles 2. I really look up to you two, and I am thrilled that you have chosen to do this film, as it's one of my favorites. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to hear this episode.
Okay.
Wow, Neil, thanks. That was great.
And so part of the other reason we're doing this, of course, is that Incredibles 2 is coming out very soon. That's the most excited I've been for a Pixar movie in a long time.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
More than Good Dinosaur.
More even than Good Dinosaur.
More than Cars 2.
More than Cars 2.
Okay.
Coco had me pretty excited. So
I love
for me,
Coco.
yeah.
Man, Coco is a really good movie.
But for different reasons, right? There's different reasons. Incredibles 2, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Can you tell me how did you first come to the film?
Me?
Yes.
You, maybe? Was it with you?
I mean, yeah,
would
I'm pretty
imagine
sure.
so.
Actually,
Well, I was going to
I was
ask.
gonna say, this is of all. This is, I think we all thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Of all the movies that I've been lucky enough to come here and discuss with you guys, I believe that this is the first one that we all saw together in the theater at the El Capitan in the balcony, and it was lovely.
I don't think I was there.
Really?
I don't think because I know I saw it in the theater.
Yeah.
But I don't remember being in the El Capitan seeing it.
I know we saw it in the El Capitan.
So maybe I wasn't with you. Yeah.
Well, regardless, it is the first movie in the era of our friendship that we all saw.
True.
As within a few days of each other.
Yeah, if nothing else. Yeah, sure. I definitely remember seeing it with Mikey in the El Cap. Pretty much that was where we would go to see most of the Pixar films is the El Cap, because that's the Disney theater here in town. And I loved it. Like, as a comic book hero, comic book fan, rather, and as a superhero movie fan, I was just blown away at how much fun this film was. And what it really touched on a lot of the emotional stuff between the family, because that's what's really the important thing about the movie. And at the time, I couldn't really formulate this thought, but as I've gotten older and as I've worked in this business more, in this industry more, it's very clear to me that the best superhero movies are ones that it's almost irrelevant that they're superheroes. It's the human shit that they're dealing with that's the most important, and that certainly comes throughout this entire movie, from beginning to end, the transitions of this family.
Absolutely.
I did see it with John, and I thought you, but a big group of us saw it at the El
Maybe I
Capitan. But I actually have a kind of an interesting experience with this one. I was working at Disney in the script clearances department.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And about 6 months before Incredibles came out. No, it must have been more than that. It must have been like 8 or 9 months before Incredibles came out. My boss, I was the assistant, but this is the department that did clearances and made sure everything was okay and whatever. They called me in and they told me that there was nobody in the department that knew anything about superheroes, and there was this new Pixar movie coming out, which of course I'd already read about, and could I watch the animatic and give them any notes about any superhero stuff? And I was like, oh yeah. And literally had a security person with a briefcase come to the office and give us a copy of the animatic, and I had to sit in a room with a legal pad and watch the animatic and make all my notes and then hand the animatic back to this person who put it back in the briefcase and left. It was very like Cloak and Dagger, and made all my notes. So I actually got to see this movie at the animatic phase and then subsequently went to go see it on the Disney lot 3 or 4 times at different points in the process to see animatic to rough animation to polished animation to lighting. And so by the time we all saw it together, I think I had already seen it like 6 or 7 times. And I think I probably saw it 6 or 7 times after that in the movie theater.
What was that like, seeing that first animatic?
Amazing. I mean, watching an animatic is really fun because when an animatic is good, even though characters aren't really moving, it comes alive for you. So, watching that movie, little things here and there change. I mean, obviously they were still working on the movie and everything, but, it was so funny because you get to the finished product and you see scenes that come alive, like, which we'll talk about, but like Dash running on water or all that kind of stuff. And you're like, I feel like I already saw it, because your imagination goes wild when you're watching the moving images and music and everything. It was really, really exciting. And particularly because of my love of both animation and superheroes and comic books, the fact that I got to see this one early was really just one of those amazing. We talk about this a lot, like when you move to LA and before you get to do the thing I'm lucky enough to be doing now professionally, what I've always wanted to do, but I was just an assistant at that time. So that was one of those weird LA opportunities that came up that was just so like almost the universe telling you you're doing everything right, keep going.
Wow. Did any of your notes end up in the film? Like, did you see anything that you might?
No, I mean, look, Pixar really knows what they're doing. Yeah. So, So I don't think anything that my lowly assistant ass said really made a difference. But mostly, and also, I will say this. One of the things that was frustrating about working in a clearance department is they are more often than not the group that tells creatives, no, you can't do something. Oh. And I was such a Pixar fan that I was probably more inclined to be like, it's all awesome. There's nothing weird about it at all. It's amazing. So I wasn't actively trying to get anything put in there or taken out either.
Fair enough.
So this is our first Pixar film. So I don't want to go into a huge history of Pixar, although if you want to, there's documentaries, there's the Pixar story.
You saw it. When did you see it? What did your
I was in the theater right at the time when it came out. And maybe I was in El Capitan. Usually when I've seen something at the El Capitan, I can picture the movie theater.
Right.
And sometimes they do a little show before, and sometimes there's, and that's not in my brain.
I'm pretty sure you were with us.
I believe you. Yeah, it's weird to me that I don't actually remember. I know I saw it in the theater.
It would be weird to me that you weren't with us for that one.
Yeah. Do you remember the experience, though? Like, do you remember what it was like the first time?
Of course. I love this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So much that you don't remember seeing it in the theater.
So anyway, Pixar.
Moving on. Out to Emery.
I think Pixar's first run of 12 movies is maybe the greatest run in Hollywood history in film. I mean, it's so good. There are no stinkers in there. It's all movies, like each one's like amazing. And by the time you get to Incredibles, this is a real. It's funny. I know that in each movie they're pushing the technology and pushing what they can do with story. But I think Incredibles is a real jumping off point. It's a huge departure for them.
It's a huge departure, and also all of CG animation owes Brad Bird and the character design team and the technical team on Incredibles a huge debt, because I don't know if people remember this, but CG animation up to that point had a real uncanny valley problem.
Right. Can you explain what that means, the uncanny valley?
I can. So with CG animation, there was this big problem where, like, you would animate things and you would animate humans and they would look almost human. They would almost move right, but then it would just be like this giant dip of like, it's the area where we as human beings are looking at something and we know it looks messed up and wrong.
And it's almost creepy. Like there's because things that are less human and less realistic, we totally accept.
Yeah.
But as they approach realism, it gets.
Somebody asked me why that was, and I explained to somebody that not every human being is an artist, but every human being spends every minute of every single day observing other humans and their movements. So I might watch a dog running in CG animation and think it looks mostly okay. But when you're watching a human, the tiniest thing messes you up. And so there was movies like the Final Fantasy movie that tried to be very photorealistic that was super weird and creepy. That's 100% the Uncanny Valley problem. And even like early Pixar was like Polar Express. Well, that was more mocap.
Oh, was it?
But even like the early Toy Stories then with Andy, the Toy Story movies, Andy, his mom, whoever.
You didn't want to see
Sid,
those humans.
They looked a little weird, right? And the thing that happened with Incredibles that nobody had ever done quite this way before is they morphed the bodies to not be remotely human. They went down the cartoon design path. So like, Bob is huge and incredible, and Elastigirl is all curvy, and like everyone is kind of squashed and stretched and done much more design oriented. And it allowed them to sort of sidestep some of those Uncanny Valley problems. And then a lot of movies after that started adopting that look. And CG has come so far now that we can practically do anything, so it's less of an issue. But this was the first movie that really, I mean, Bob has tiny little legs and a giant upper body. And up till that, people kept trying to make things look more or less regular human in CG. And they really went for it in this. I mean, Edna Mode is what? Half as tall as anybody?
Yeah. Well, and the thing that Brad Bird said over and over again is that cartooning is caricature. And I think that's goes exactly with what you're saying, is that the strength, and so let's talk a little bit about Brad Bird. He is one of the guys who was at the first class of CalArts in the 70s, which is a legendary time for animation. And John Lasseter there, I think Tim Burton was there, and he had wanted to be, what I didn't know about him was that he wanted to be an animator from the beginning, and had sent things to Disney, and Disney recognized him, and he developed a relationship with one of the 9 old men. Can you describe who the 9 old men are?
I can't remember all their names, but these
No,
are
you
like
don't have
Walt,
to give all their
these
names.
are Walt's. These are Walt's original animators. I mean, these are the guys that figured everything out as Walt was like, why don't we do this? How about this? Why couldn't we do this? I mean, these guys are the, it's like Frank and Ollie, who are actually in
Ollie
Incredibles.
Johnson and
Milt Call, like a lot of these guys.
Milt Call's the one who was his mentor. So in high school, he's hanging out with Milt Call, learning about how to draw.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. And then he goes to CalArts, and then he works at Disney fairly briefly. It sounds like he was on The Fox and the Hound, which is not Disney's, best age. But it was when Tim Burton was there.
No, yeah,
John
it's very
Lasseter's
funny.
there.
If you watch, it's very funny to what you're talking about. If you watch the documentary Waking Sleeping Beauty, which is about Disney animation from about Fox and the Hound, Black Cauldron time to when Lion King comes out, and if you watch the Pixar documentary, both of which are excellent, they actually both share a little bit of film footage that has Lasseter and I think Tim Burton and a couple other people, because it was all those guys who were there at that time, that even though Disney animation was at a low point, some of these most amazing people who have gone on to do amazing things were all there at the same time, frustrated with what Disney animation had become.
Well, and they're the guys who learned at the footsteps of the masters, because the 9 old men were teaching at CalArts. Yeah. So Brad Bird leaves Disney, and he goes off and works on The Simpsons at the Tracy Ullman Show. He's one of the original guys animating The Simpsons. He by the way, he directed some of my favorite episodes. He directed Krusty Gets Busted, which is the first Sideshow Bob one, and Like Father, Like Clown, which is just fantastic episodes of The Simpsons. And then he goes off to direct his first animated feature, which is The Iron Giant.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a fantastic movie that bombed.
Yep. Well, Warner Brothers didn't know what to do with it. They dumped it in August. They didn't really promote it. I saw it in movie theaters and thought it was still think it's one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. It's so amazing. It's so powerful. And that's when Brad Bird popped up on my radar. I was like, who is this guy? And so I knew who he was after that. So when I heard that he was doing this Pixar movie, I was very excited.
And so but it bombs at the box office, and he's freaked out. So who does he call? His old buddy, John Lasseter, and pitches The Incredibles, which is an idea he had like 10 years before. And what's interesting is up to that point, only people coming out of Pixar had directed Pixar movies.
Yeah, Brad Bird was the first one they brought in.
And he brought in all of his 2D animators to Pixar, none of whom had worked with computers, had worked in 3D. And it sounds like there was both a culture clash, and it was hugely beneficial to all of them to work each other. It really pushed Pixar to the next place. And one of the things I love, if you look at the history of Pixar, and my favorite book, by the way, is Creativity Inc., which is Ed Catmull's book.
If anybody hasn't picked it up, you should absolutely pick it up. If you're a lover of animation, it's a great book. But also, if you're a lover of like how to make a creative environment and how to create and foster a world like what Pixar created. It's amazing. It's an amazing how-to book.
It is the best book on the creative process and managing the creative process I've ever read. And one of the things that you see in that book, and it's very clear in what happened with Incredibles, is it's not like it's a warm, fuzzy place all the time at Pixar. It's every group of people pushing each other to do so that technology is pushing the animators are pushing technology, the story people are constantly putting their things up to be discussed and talked about, and all in the service of making the thing better.
I think that was great about doing the tour when I did visit 2 or 3 years ago. Michael's been there, but I went on a tour for the junket for the Inside Out Blu-ray. The Schmoes Know sent me, and we went through that process. They took us department by department as if we were creating an animated feature. It was really incredible. And you would sit there and you would design, you would draw, you would have and then people would comment. You would create a story, write a script, and then people would comment on the script you wrote, on the designs you came up with for the animation, and then they showed us the computers that they used to create this anime. So it really was going through the process, and there was their way of showing you what happens here at Pixar in a microcosm. So what you're saying makes absolute sense, and they do it on purpose to get people to understand how Pixar creates what they create.
And I don't. When I said it's not a warm fuzzy place, I don't mean to say that it's not that they're not nice people. No. But just that everything is in service to the story.
Well, I think that's a big thing that I got out of Creativity Inc. And I think something that with Pixar and with Brad Bird and with everything is, I love hanging around nice people. When you're trying to build a story, you don't want nice, you want honest.
Yeah.
And you can be honest in the desire to make a story better and better and better, but you have to have a tough skin creatively to be in that kind of environment. It's not easy. And
it's interesting because it's still collaborative. Yeah. In a huge way. Pixar is hugely collaborative, as opposed to, we've talked a lot about the Kubricks and the auteur directors where like, it's my way, I have the great vision. That's not how a movie at Pixar works. Speaking of the movie, shall we jump into it?
Let's jump in.
It starts with that great score, Michael Giacchino. And it is a score that owes so much to 60s jazz Bond scores. And it's just and that's not the kind of score that people are putting in movies at the time. And we go right into some interviews.
This is fine.
That's fine.
I mean, I can break through walls, I just can't.
That's fine.
Get this.
So, Mr. Incredible, do you have a secret identity?
Every superhero has a secret identity. I don't know a single one who doesn't. Who wants the pressure of being super all the time?
It's such like it's such the perfect way to start this movie.
Agreed.
Of course I have a secret identity. Can you see me in this at the supermarket? Come on. I would want to go shopping as Elastigirl, you know what I mean?
The genius of it, because most of the people watching the movie at this time, what has been their exposure to superhero movies, right? It was Batman, the 89 Batman. It was the Superman from the 70s. But most of us watched the older stuff too, and we understood what it was like. And you hear the flickering, like of the tape and all of that when they're speaking about it. And they instantly, and you see him, Incredible's in great shape. Elastigirl looks, young and beautiful, and you have all this stuff going on, and they're all speaking about their dreams. And the way it ends, it kind of lingers.
Well, but also
that ending.
I believe I'm right. It's been a business watch, but I believe because it flips. Like Elastigirl wants to just keep doing the superhero thing.
Going looking at
and
married.
It's Mr. Incredible's like, I think about one day about settling down and
Sometimes I think I just like the simple life, relax a little and raise a family.
Settle down. Are you kidding? I'm at the top of my game. I'm right up there with the big dogs. Girls, come on. Leave the saving of the world to the men? I don't think so.
Well, they all end up saying the opposite of what it's going to be, because Frozone talks about keeping the ladies away, and he's going to end up in a marriage. And what's interesting, the thing that Brad Bird said that he repeated throughout and I think this is the theme of the movie, is the fantastic mixed with the mundane. Is that what we're seeing in this grainy interview, very real kind of thing, because he's playing with his microphone, he's going in and out of focus, and he's kind of not saying everything perfectly, this is ordinary. Yeah. We're taking the superhero characters and we're making them really, really human and normal and ordinary.
Can you imagine me going shopping in my Elastigirl outfit?
Yeah.
Go grocery
shopping. But it really is, because it's like everything they say is the opposite. But Elastigirl is very clearly against having a normal life.
Yeah. Yep.
Mr. Incredible sort of waxes poetic about it before he gets up with the mic. And like just the way the camera tips and you hear the people in the back will be like, oh no, you just like, it's like, it really does go, God, it really grounds it.
Yeah.
And then we dive right into
Big action sequence.
Big action sequence.
Yeah, there's a car chase, and I love that some cops are chasing the car, and the music again. There's that James Bondness to the music, and we see Mr. Incredible. He's in a tux. He overhears the police chase. He checks his in-car map, which is very cool. Because one thing we should say is this movie is very early 60s. We're a little vague about what the actual reality is, but it's like a alternate universe where it's more modern technology, but very much in the early 60s, like Dr. No era. And he goes, oh, I think I got time. The car does some magical things to change him into his costume. The car converts into the Incredible car. I thought it was the Incredible.
No, it's the Incredicar.
The Incredicar?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. And it is super cool. And right as he's chasing off against the bad guys, a little old lady steps in the street. Can you save my cat?
With a British accent.
Yeah.
With a random British accent.
It's a weird little accent.
Right?
But I think I always refer to this whole sequence as just the golden age, because what's really great for the purposes of the
exactly
movie,
right, yeah.
we have to understand in a very limited amount of time what they lost.
Right.
And everything in this sequence, because like look what he does. Like I think within the period of like 5 minutes, he gets the cat out of the tree, stops the robbers. It was the last. We'll get to it, but like Elastigirl on the roof, Bon Voyage, like everything. The train, the Incredicar, everything. Within a few minutes, they took all the cool stuff about being a superhero and just jammed it in there, which I think is amazing. But we can continue and go through it bit by bit. But like because it's so good.
No, this is exactly right. There's a tour bus robbery, and he's still got time for that.
Yeah.
And there he sees Incrediboy.
Cool, ready for takeoff.
What the? Who are you supposed to be?
Well, I'm Incrediboy.
What? No. You're that kid from the fan club. Brody. Buddy.
My name is Incrediboy.
Reaper.
A little bit. He's his number one fan.
Yeah.
But he doesn't give him a lot of attention.
He ejects him from the car.
He ejects him from the car. And we go up to a rooftop where there's a thief, and the guy draws his gun, and what happens?
Boom, Elastigirl
Knocks him out.
And the way that she flips and stretches around him is, look, I might be gay, but I even know that's sexy.
Elastigirl.
Mr. Incredible.
No, it's all right. I've got him.
Sure you got him. I just took him out for you.
Sure, you took him out. His attention was on me.
A fact I exploited to do my job.
My job, you mean?
A simple thank you will suffice.
Thanks, but I don't need any help.
Whatever happened to ladies first?
Well, whatever happened to equal treatment?
Hey, look, wait. The lady got me first.
Which ends with him going, her going, well, maybe you need to be more flexible. And then I love her exit as she kind of
flips off
and stretches across to the next building.
Which is brilliant, isn't it? This is in essence Fantastic Four. You have her being Mr. Fantastic, which is very interesting in the whole way around it. And he's kind of the thing because he's a strong dude handling everything. But also what I love about this whole sequence here is, this was watching it again for this podcast, it's a little harder of a film than you think. Like when he throws the tree down, that dude goes through the windshield. That guy goes through the windshield. And later on, he's going to throw his balls through a wall. So like this is like not a kids necessarily type movie. There's some hard moments in this movie, so it's interesting.
Well, it's tough being a superhero.
Yeah, I guess so.
Stuff happens.
And even in the scene on the roof is a little sexy. It's a little sexier than you would normally see in an animated series.
There are a couple of moments that are a little sexy in this movie. And now we hear there's a guy jumping off a building. He saves that guy, drives him through a window. This is going to come back to haunt him. And then we hear about Bon Voyage.
Which, by the way, the French mime with the bombs, Bon Voyage.
Still my
brilliant.
Favorite. Brilliant. Still my favorite.
Sacre bleu, Mr. Incredible.
When he sees the Incrediboy and he says something in French to him about being a child, oh my God, I lose it every time.
Well, it's so funny. So,
incredible.
As we said before, when I sit down and watch a movie, I've got my iPad and I'm taking notes. I stopped this movie to take notes more than I think anything else we've ever done, because it is so dense with a great moment, a great design, a great shot, a great idea, a great joke, all of this, it's so much that I'm actually, even as we're going, I've already skipped stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much that's so good.
Well, and then this scene with Incrediboy. I mean, so he's basically like, look, I made myself super like you. I did it myself. I built these. Isn't this neat?
Yep.
And Mr. Incredible is just not having it. He doesn't want him there. And then Bon Voyage
Throws the bomb.
Sticks the bomb to his cape.
Yes.
By the way, fucking capes.
Capes. They're going to come back.
Yeah.
And so he goes off to save Incrediboy and grabs onto him as he flies away, ruining the flight. He finally gets the bomb off, and the bomb, of course, lands on some train tracks. And it was interesting, too, the way he stops this train. First of all, there's a great moment of kind of, oh, no.
Yeah.
Because he knows it's going to hurt. And then it looks brutal in that train. It does not look nice, and that is another thing that is going to come back to haunt him. And now he's really, really late.
Yeah.
Jumps in the car.
But also best line is when they put Buddy in the cop car and he's like, I'm Incredible. He's like, you're not affiliated with me. But yes, then he is super late.
And you see the cops like give him thanks, and so there's a good relationship.
That's really
there.
important.
Actually,
Good point.
But no, even more important there is they're a little peeved at him. The cops are really happy with him at the beginning with the old lady and everything, like, oh, Mr. Incredible. When Bon Voyage is still out there and he leaves because he is super late, they're a little peeved.
Wait, he got away?
Yeah,
they
they're a
have
little
that
bit.
conversation.
It's again, what's great about an animated movie in general, but what Brad Bird does in this movie is like times 10 is you only have a limited amount of time to tell a really big story. And so it's important that in the first moment you see the cops, like 2 minutes into this scene, they're like, Mr. Incredible, you're the best. You're awesome. And then you get to the end of this entire sequence and they're like, what, you're just going to leave and Bon Voyage is out there? Like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
And that's important because that drives you right into what happens next.
Yeah.
So he makes it to he gets it to a church, and he's getting to a wedding just on time. There's Frozone waiting for him. They get the mask off, and he goes up. And this is the thing that's, you could never go back to seeing it for the first time, because I remember seeing it for the first time. It's like, oh my God, he's getting married. Oh my God, it's Elastigirl.
Right.
That is awesome.
And then you retro to the conversation, go, oh, they were talking about each other. Because he says, what are you doing tonight? And she said, I've got a previous engagement.
Yeah.
Well,
She's like, when you said you had a previous engagement, I thought you were kidding.
Who gets married at night, though?
Superheroes.
I guess so.
And I love that they're having their little private dialogue.
Well, the whole time while the priest is speaking.
While the priest is giving their speech, and it gets to this point, this time where they're talking about what it needs to have.
You
marriage
have
work
to
out.
be more than Mr. Incredible.
Yeah,
I do.
And he says, I do. That is brilliant, brilliant screenwriting.
I love you, but if we're gonna make this work, you gotta be more than Mr. Incredible. You know that, don't you?
So long as you both shall live.
I do.
This is what the film is about. This family, this union, this marriage, this couple, this family that's going to come from this couple. And that's what's so great. It gets you right in them because she's saying to him, she's doing that stuff that you've seen, the beats you've seen before in previous films or TV shows or even books you've read where she said, you got to do more. You're stepping up. And so automatically we know she's the one that's going to be driving the driving force of the family. And he's going to have to, kind of put away his things and be an adult. Put away his childish things and be an adult. And I love that.
And this is the genius of...
And he loves her when he says, I do.
Of course he does. And this is the genius of The Incredibles, and we'll talk about it throughout, is that people think, or used to think, I think much more so, when you do a superhero movie, the most important thing is the superhero stuff. And this movie is like, no, this is about a husband and a wife and a family and who they are as people and their personal inside stuff. Right. The superhero stuff is awesome. But the core of it is this relationships, and it ends with, them talking about till, as long as we both shall live, no matter what happens. And his response is,
hey, come on. We're superheroes. What could happen?
What could go wrong?
What could happen?
What could go wrong?
Cut to.
Yep.
We go back into this old sort of newsreel footage sort of stuff, and Mr. Incredible's getting sued.
Yeah.
That guy he saved, he didn't want to be saved.
That whole lawyer thing is brilliant.
I saved your life. You didn't save my life. You ruined my death.
You ruined my death.
But yeah, and everybody
His supposed actions of heroic.
But yeah, the suicide guy, everyone on the train accident, like Evercross, and just you sort of get that, and they do a really good job of just making this world feel very huge, and that all superheroes
are going through
through this thing, and that the whole world, and because we live in this litigious world that we live in, like this is
Yeah,
this would happen.
You watch it, go, yep. What they want is give up your secret identities, and instead the solution is that all the superheroes are going to go underground, and they're not going to be superheroes anymore.
Yeah.
And then we cut
Which,
to...
in a way, is really interesting because this is so... I mean, I believe Incredibles came out long before the comic book Civil War came out. But, what Civil War ultimately is about, superhero registration, you can't run around and do this without the government responsibility, and what happened in Incredibles, it's kind of the same thing. So it's just interesting how some of these ideas about superheroes kind of track in different worlds.
And we cut to the cubicle. This might be... There are remarkable, amazing designs throughout this entire movie. And by the way, one of the things that I found out is that I think there were 40 sets in a set, they have to build a digital set for these scenes to take place in Nemo. And this movie has 120 sets.
Yeah. Wow.
The scale of this movie compared to anything Pixar had done before is just crazy. Yeah. I know it's silly to say, Bob's Cubicle is one of my absolutely favorite sets. It is amazing. His bulk, the sort of washed out, desaturated colors, the fact there's a big pillar that doesn't, it is so immediately hilarious.
It's a terrible place to end up.
Yeah, and everything about it just reads as horrible.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, horrible, horrible, horrible.
This is a guy who was riding on top of the world, freedom all over the place, and here he is stuck in a small box with a pole around him, and this poor old lady in front of him crying about her insurance policy.
And what he has done is denied her insurance.
Right.
Because his job is to deny help to little old ladies.
Denied? You're denying my claim? Oh, I don't understand. I have full coverage.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Hoganson, but our liability is spelled out in paragraph 17. It states clearly.
Pay for this?
Excuse me.
Once again, the twist is great here too, right? Because he was helping people all the time, helping an old lady at the beginning of the movie, and here he is denying an old lady.
Yeah, he does that, and he gets a call from Elastigirl saying that they moved in and she's bathing the baby in the sink. It's very, very domestic, and it's very domestic in like classic mid-century ranch house, home. Again, the designs are fantastic, and in the cubicle, the old lady is crying. She's upset, and Bob takes a quick look out into the other cubicles and does this beautiful line of,
I'd like to help you, but I can't. I'd like to tell you to take a copy of your policy to Norma Wilcox, WILCOX on the 3rd floor, but I can't. I also do not advise you to fill out and file a WS-2475 form with our legal department on the 2nd floor. I would not expect someone to get back to you quickly to resolve the matter.
Well, and again, you just get this hint of, which is important, even though he is in this new life that is horrible, he can't help but be a hero.
He's a hero.
Like that is the thing of this scene is no matter how bad life has gotten, no matter how different it is, he cannot let go of helping other people.
What was the thing we were talking about the other day, Mike, where you said like this, and that's the difference. This person was already a hero and they became a hero. Something. Oh, the Daredevil thing. The difference between. I'm sorry. Maybe we weren't talking about. I was reading about it. The difference in Daredevil, where Daredevil, where in Ben Affleck's Daredevil, he doesn't like how he gets blinded is different than how the Daredevil, the TV show and the comic books, because he's blinded by helping pushing the old guy out of the way of this truck that's coming around the corner, and the stuff falls out and goes into his eyes. I think in the Ben Affleck Daredevil, he's riding a skateboard and it happens. Whereas, you don't know that he's a hero. The kid's already a hero in the series, as opposed to Ben Affleck's version of Daredevil.
I mean, this is Bob, Mr. Incredible. His essence is to be Mr. Incredible.
Yeah,
that is who he is. And so what has happened is society has come down and said you cannot be who you are.
Right,
and that is what he's struggling with. That is the nature of his problem.
She's happy. She's home with the kids, homemaking. She's enjoying this.
I think she's accepted it. I think I don't know if I'd go so far as to say. I don't know. I had to think about that.
Well, she would call him to say we're officially moved in after 3 years in the house. That seems like something.
I
happy.
think that
I think she's making the best of it.
I think but there is no indication that she misses the life.
Yeah.
I think that Roka's right. I think you're right that deep underneath she probably does in some level, but she's convinced herself she's happy.
I'm not going to argue the point.
Yeah.
I think there's, a lot of times what you do in marriage is you put on the good front and, hey, this is great that we're doing this thing. And the only thing I would say, she's certainly way happier than him.
Well, that's what I'm...
No question about that.
Yeah.
But But man, there's a real turn on when they go back to being heroes.
Right.
Oh yeah.
You know, she likes being Elastigirl too. And the last thing that happens, by the way, with our old lady who is denied, I love that he says,
I'm sorry, ma'am. I know you're upset.
Pretend to be upset.
and then we get to meet Gilbert Huff, Wallace Shawn.
You authorized payment on the Walker policy?
Someone broke into their house, Mr. Huff. Their policy clearly covers him against
I don't want to know about their
litigation.
coverage, Bob. Don't tell me about their coverage. Tell me how you're keeping Insuricare in the black.
And by the way, we should give shout out to Craig T. Nelson, who we haven't yet.
Oh, absolutely.
As the voice of Mr. Incredible, and of course Holly Hunter as Elastigirl was great. But yes, Wallace Shawn, who never disappoints, ever.
And his and again, this is that thing Brad Bird said about cartooning his caricature. I mean, look at this person. He's like 2 feet tall. You know, Mr. Incredible's like 7 feet tall, and he's like 2 feet tall, and he is not pleased because he feels that your job is to deny people coverage to keep the company in the black. That's the job.
Look, when he says, "Don't you want us to help our?" I'm legally obligated to say no. Oh, brilliant lines, man.
Now we're at school, and we get to meet Dash, and Dash is in trouble.
Has Dash done something wrong?
He's a disruptive influence, and he openly mocks me in front of the class.
He says.
Look, I know it's you. He puts thumbtacks on my stool.
You saw him do this?
Well, not really. No, actually not.
They wanted to cut this scene out of the movie. There was a lot. The movie was too long. It was too expensive. This is the longest Pixar movie
Yes,
they had made at this.
Something.
Yeah, that they made at this point. I don't know if there's been a longer one since.
I think Cars is actually longer, but I'm not 100%
really?
sure. I think Cars is a long movie.
Wow.
I'll leave it alone.
Heyo.
They talked about taking this out, and then finally they said it's so important to see Dash's who he is, and that because he is in trouble, because somehow a thumbtack keeps ending up on the chair of this teacher, and they know Dash did it, but even with videotaping, they can't see.
Teacher is great.
The teacher's great. He's so mad. And also, this is important because, again, like the using your superpowers or not using your superpowers, embracing who you are or not embracing who you are is such an important theme in this movie. And it's clear that even though Dash did not grow up in a world of supers, he loves his powers and he uses them all the time.
Yeah.
Like and what right after this, I mean, the scene is great because the principal just thinks the teacher is a loon,
right?
Because the teacher is not wrong. Like he can see that moment where Dash is, but it's just like it's there. I don't know what he did, but it's there. It's there.
You can see it.
Well, I mean, I'm a teacher. If there kept being thumbtacks on my seat, I would start to get really upset.
But the scene right after this with Elastigirl and Dash in the car is probably like one of the most important like key moments of the movie because it's that moment about what makes you special, and it's like it's Dash having that problem with, you know, you're not letting me be who I am.
You always say, do your best, but you don't really mean it. Why can't I do the best that I can do?
Right now, honey, the world just wants us to fit in, and to fit in, we just gotta be like everybody else.
But Dad always said our powers were nothing to be ashamed of. Our powers made us special.
Everyone's special, Dash.
Which is another way of saying no one is.
That's a big line.
But once again, this is the characteristic of the Pixar movies. They seem to be for kids, but they really are for adults. These are very mature conversations that they're having. This idea that, like, the kid comes back with this idea saying that no one's special. Then if everyone's special, because you can't be special, you have to have normal people in order to compare to see something special. If everyone is special, no one can be special. And that's such a brilliant like comeback. And what he's saying here to him kind of connects to what
Bob says later.
Incrediboy says to him when he says
he wants to make everyone super.
You say follow who you are inside, but you don't say which part of you to follow. Well, I know who I am. I'm incredible. I'm your ward, right? He does that, and this is that same kind of speech coming back in a different way.
Well, I thought you were going to say something else, which is interesting because it also applies to what's his plan. His plan is that he's going to sell all of his stuff to the normal people so that everybody can be super, which means nobody's super.
Yeah,
you know. I mean, and this is the thing. Like, I don't want to take a big tangent on it, but we live in a world where everybody gets a trophy is a real thing.
Yeah,
and I don't like it.
Okay.
I think what sort of happened was that we realized at a certain point the vast importance of self-esteem, and that there were a lot of kids who were the kids who weren't the football star and weren't the this and weren't the that. And they went, oh, well, these people need to have good self-esteem and they need the love and the attention and to feel that they're special. And I totally agree with that. And like lots of things in society, we then overcompensate by then just saying, well, everybody is a winner. And it's like, no, we actually need to have, because the thing that happens is, why try?
Yeah.
You know, that when someone works really hard, there should be an acknowledgement that, hey, that was pretty amazing.
But I think some people are driven too irregardless. I think some people are driven irregardless.
Totally agree.
But I hear your point. It's a very good point.
Yeah. And that's certainly what they're struggling with. And now we get to meet our other kid, which was to go off to junior high to meet Violet.
Sarah Vowell.
Great voice acting.
Voice.
Yeah.
She wasn't known for this. She's a writer.
Yeah.
She's a writer, and it's like I think she's a young adult writer, and she wrote for the Times or whatever. And then I don't know how she got the job.
Well, she was a This American Life person, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah.
And so we heard her voice on the radio a lot, and she has just one of those wonderful voices. And this character is she's shy. She's got a crush on this boy. The boy starts to come down, and she makes her head disappear so she can't see him. It's just great. And here's the thing that Brad Bird said was he designed the powers specifically to fit the characters.
Of course. Yeah.
You know, dad feels that his job is to be strong. That's in the classic.
Mom is being stretched in all directions, taking care of everybody. The son is a look before you leap, run all around the place, super speedster, and she is shy. And so whenever she gets nervous, she turns invisible.
And wants to protect herself, so she has shields. I mean, and it's just so perfect. Yeah. I never thought about it until listening to the commentary track last night. I'm like, oh my God, of course, that's exactly what it is. Bob's car, I love as much as his cubicle.
But it's supposed to reflect what he's dealing with, right? He is trapped in this box.
Absolutely.
And he goes from cubicle to car. Even in the house, which has more space, he still feels trapped.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not who he can be.
He's such a big character compared to everybody else design-wise that no matter where he is, especially now because he's heavier than he was in the past, but he's so big that anywhere he is, he's sort of moving around things. It's a constant sense of the world is too small for him.
Well, and this is the thing about animation. When I teach film school, I show animation, fairly often, and part of the reason is that in animation, unlike anything else, everything is a choice. Every single thing you do, every prop that is used, every set design, every color, every piece of clothing, the weather, all those things were done on purpose for a reason. And you can see that throughout this movie. Every single thing is this way for a reason. And that car is a great example. He gets home, gets out of the car, slips on a skateboard, grabs the car, crushes it a little bit, slams the door, breaks the glass, and then is just so angry that he picks up the car. And that shot of that kid on that tricycle,
that bubble blowing up,
that is hilarious. Now it's dinner time. We're sitting down. Mom is,
and this is great because this is the first time we've seen the whole family together.
Yeah.
We've gone through the whole movie. We had the scenes with Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible at the beginning, but this is the first time we see the family unit, including Jack.
Yeah. And Jack. So many. By the way, that's one of the things I'm looking most forward to in Incredibles 2.
Oh, yeah.
Is what's going to happen with Jack. But again, Bob is disconnected. He's reading at the table, and Mom wants Dash to tell what happened at school, and Bob is not present with the family.
No. Nope.
And finally, we kind of get the story out of that. He was caught on tape, but you still couldn't see it. And what's Bob's reaction?
They caught you on tape and you still got away with it? Whoa. You must have been booking. How fast do you think you were going?
We are not encouraging this.
I'm not encouraging. I'm just asking how fast you were.
Honey!
Well, A, he's thrilled about it, but B, to your point, Bob is not connected to his family. And we know he loves his family, but Bob is not connected to regular suburban life. Yeah. He has no interest in dinner, what happened at school, how was your day. The thing that lights him up is Dash used his superpowers and got away with something.
Yeah.
And he's like, how fast were you going? And him and Dash have this moment where they're excited and Elastigirl shuts it down. And it's important because everything about this is superpower stuff gets shut down. I'm trying really hard to maintain normal life because that's what we're supposed to do. Right. And you are clearly not into it. And God, you light up every time. And it makes me mad because anytime the superhero stuff, that's where you get excited.
Well, and because as we're going to get into later, that's about him.
Yeah.
And that Mom is going, This is our lives. This is our family.
Right.
And Dash and Violet get into an argument and start chasing each other around. And Mom is trying to break it up, and Bob is no help.
No.
Ends up in the kitchen.
He's in the kitchen trying to get a new plate because he shattered that plate trying to cut the meat.
And he's in the kitchen. That's where we find out that one of the superheroes, Gazer Beam, has disappeared.
It's an interesting name.
Gazer Beam?
Yeah, Gazer Beam. It struck me this time.
Why?
It's an interesting name.
I mean, why?
Bon voyage makes sense. That's fun. What is gaze? Like gaze, right?
Yeah.
Is that what he means? Like gazing into the soul?
Like gaze, like you look, gaze.
Okay, good.
You gaze at something.
That's what it struck me this time. I was like, oh, this is kind of a slightly inventive name.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm really excited you were excited about that.
It's discovery, little things like that. But you know what? The Cine-Files has opened my eyes, Steve. That's what I'm saying.
You were almost like gazing at new things. Back in the dining room, the doorbell rings, and of course they were right in the middle of Bob's lifted up the couch and all their superhero parties.
What does he say?
I need you to engage.
You want me to engage? I'll engage.
And that's when the doorbell rings, and of course, who is there but Frozone?
And of course, you do see it, but because they all freeze, and you do see again visually, you're getting this idea that suburban life was completely ruined by superheroics because she's stretching. There's force fields. Dash is running. He's literally lifting everything over his head. It's like these people do not belong in normal world.
Right.
That is not what's meant to be. But yeah, then Frozone comes in, the ice moment with Dash,
which is very fun. Of course, we got Samuel L. Jackson as a great Frozone, and they're heading out because it's bowling night.
Yeah. What's interesting too is I think they're really smart to place it at the time that they placed it. Do you know what I'm saying? Because
absolutely,
you get that vibe that he's the breadwinner, she's supposed to stay home. The old stereotypes of that kind of stuff, right? That was what existed back then. But there's also this undercurrent going on in the suburban life, this desire for more. Irregardless of their heroes, we saw this happening with men and with women. This idea that they're stuck in this life, but they wanted more. The men wanted to be boys again, wanted to play again. The women wanted to be loved and wanted the men to love their family as much as they love going out and doing these other things.
Which is one of the things that's so exciting to me about Incredibles 2, which is clearly about Elastigirl being the career mom and Mr. Incredible being the stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
So you're right, 100%. This movie has a lot of those elements, and the fact that they're switching that around for Incredibles 2, I'm super stoked about.
Yeah.
But, yes, bowling night.
We head off to go bowling. We're in the car. We're not bowling. We're listening to the police band. We hear, by the way, Frozone reminiscing about an old story where we first hear the term monologuing, which I love the term monologuing. I think, and that was introduced in this movie, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was, maybe.
This is where I think of it from.
But I mean, I do love it because it's one of the things that's so fun about this movie is the way it is a love letter to superhero stories, but also pokes fun at the conventions. And this is a big one. It's the monologuing. It's the villain literally telling you exactly what he's going to do while you're tied up in certain death, which is never certain death.
Right. And we hear they've kind of been doing this for a while, and Frozone a little bit against it, and we're going to get caught.
2356. What is that? Robbery?
This is just sad.
Yeah, robbery. You want to catch a robber?
No. Tell you the truth, I'd rather go bowling. Look, what if we actually did what our wives think we're doing, just to shake things up?
And then we actually see that there's somebody watching them from another car in the distance. And finally, we hear there's a fire. And they can't quite resist it, and they pull out to go to the fire, and the car follows them.
Yep.
And we're in the fire, and they're kind of dressed up in masks, and they're helping a lot of people, and they need Frozone to put out the fire, but he's dry.
No moisture in the air. Got none of it.
Yeah. And finally,
I do also get to see how these guys, because as again, we saw that golden age scene at the beginning where where they were all at the top of their games, and you see they're not at the top of their games anymore.
No, not at all. Bust through the wall, the whole building collapses, they end up in another wall, and they are in a jewelry store with the alarm going off.
And again, I just want to say, same as with that golden age scene, is you're doing the great job of they hit every superhero convention. You literally go from burning building directly into jewelry store heist moment. It's just one thing after another where you're just hitting every classic moment.
Yep. And I love that the realization that
we look like bad guys, incompetent bad guys.
Freeze.
And it always bothered me. Actually, here, you were asking me before about what it was like watching the animatic versus watching the movie. And this is one thing that I forgot about until just now is when I saw the animatic and he froze the cop, it really bugged me because I was like, did he just kill a cop? But then I saw the movie and it's very clear that the cop is not dead because his eyes are moving inside the ice. So that was one of those moments where at the animatic I was like, that's an interesting choice.
And in order to freeze the cop, Frozone has to just pour himself a little glass of water, finally drinks it, and then he can do it, which is great.
Which I thought was an homage to the Pulp Fiction scene when he has with Tim Roth. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this.
You know what?
I wonder if they're using that.
It's a similar moment. And by the way, Brad Bird was totally against the frozen bullet in the air because he just felt the physics were impossible. And they finally convinced him of it, and he is thrilled that he did. And that goes to that Pixar thing of people suggesting things and arguing things and pushing to get the best possible things. And so we've frozen the cop, and our guys disappear. It's late at night, and Bob is sneaking back in home. I love that he's humming the Incredibles theme.
Yeah.
That is
everybody
awesome.
should have their own theme song.
Yeah. Eating that last piece of cake, I think he's gotten away with it.
Nope.
Light switches on, chair flips around. There's Helen.
I thought you'd be back by 11.
I said I'd be back later.
I assumed you'd be back later. If you came back at all, you'd be back later.
Well, I'm back, okay?
And I love this fight. And actually, if anybody's read Creativity Inc., there's a great story about this fight.
I don't remember it.
To your point of what you were saying about Pixar being collaborative. So Pixar has the brain trust, all the people that kind of watch all the animatics, discuss everything. And the first time that they all watch this scene, Elastigirl kind of calls Bob out, realizes where he's been. He kind of fumbles into it, admits that he was out doing stuff, and they get in a big fight about what he's doing, the superhero life versus the suburban life. Right. And he gets really angry at her, and then she yells at him and says, "This is not about you." And when they watched this movie originally and the Brain Trust, they all said that that Brad Bird had to rewrite the scene because Bob was really aggressive and it seemed like he was about to beat up like Elastigirl. It didn't work. The scene didn't work. And he was like, I don't want to rewrite the scene. This is what the whole movie's about. This is the central debate about this movie. And they're like, well, you got to do something. You got to rewrite it. And he was really pissed. But he did respect everybody in that room, and he went and thought about it, and he looked at it, and he thought about it, and he finally realized that the problem was that Bob is so huge and Elastigirl is not. And so when he's yelling at her, even when she says, this is not about you, she's yelling at him, but he's a ginormous dude. So he was like, oh, she stretches. So when you watch the scene, he reboarded it so that when she gets mad at him, she starts getting bigger. So this is not about you. And she's looking down at him. And he showed the scene again. And everybody's like, oh, good, you rewrote it. And he was like, no. But all of a sudden it was okay because she was powerful. She's powerful. She can hold her own against him. And I always thought that was such a cool thing because he didn't change a word of it. It's and good that he didn't because that discussion, that fight between them, super important.
Look, I performed a public service. You act like that's a bad thing.
It is a bad thing, Bob. Uprooting our family again so you can relive the glory days is a very bad thing.
Reliving the glory days is better than acting like they didn't happen.
Yes, they happened. But this, our family, is what's happening now, Bob. And you are missing this. I can't believe you don't want to go to your own son's graduation.
It's not a graduation. He is moving from the 4th grade to the 5th grade.
It's a ceremony.
It's psychotic. They keep creating new ways to celebrate mediocrity, but if someone is genuinely exceptional,
This is not about you, Bob. This is about Dash.
You want to do something for Dash? Then let him actually compete. Let him go out for sports.
I will not be made the enemy here. You know why we can't do that.
Because it'd be great.
This is not about you!
By the way, this is one of the weirdest. There are certain times where, as a writer, I'm sure you've experienced this, where something magical happens in your story that you had planted something else in the past, having no idea that it was going to help you get through the problem in your scene. He didn't make her be elastic in order to solve the problem in the scene, but that is actually what solves the problem.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And of course, what happens at the "this is not about you" moment? We've discovered that the kids are watching this whole thing.
Yeah. But to your point, I mean, you were talking earlier about, you don't want to go on a tangent, but about giving everyone a trophy and everything else. Like, that's literally what Bob says here.
Yeah.
I mean, that is literally his issue with just like, how many graduations does he have to go to? It's not a graduation. It's just moving from like this grade to this grade. This whole idea that we make all of these things special, and he has been robbed of the thing that made him special.
Yep. That's absolutely right. And of course, the kids are freaked out. And I love that Bob does we're not fighting here. Everything's okay. And she's not quite willing to put up a good front at this moment.
We're just having a discussion.
Pretty loud discussion.
Yeah, but that's okay. Because what's important is that Mommy and I are always a team. We're always united against
The Force is the...
Pig-headedness.
I was going to say evil or something.
And she kind of knocks his hand off her shoulder. So we're not going to resolve this. And of course, we are going to resolve Bob's work because now we're back in Gilbert's office. And it was like arranged his pencils and is perfectly ready to give him the speech about the job is like a clock and every cog in the machine is whatever it is. And Giant Bob is sitting there and he looks out the window and there seems to be a robbery in progress. And you know where he wants to be.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part because he says, there's a robbery out there. And his boss is just like, well, let's hope we don't insure it. It's just like his anger at and again, it's like consistently every point up till now, like any moment where he is not allowed to be the hero, any moment where he can't do the thing that he feels in his heart is right. And this is just the moment where he breaks and it's too much.
Yeah. Well, and there's this moment where like his eyes keep going out to the robbery and Gilbert grabs his face, like gets physical with him. And it's so like, I don't believe that big people should physically intimidate smaller people, but there is something really weird about this much smaller person, like getting physical with this huge man.
Yeah.
And then he kind of breaks him down. He says, if you do anything else, you're fired. And you think that Bob is going to back down. And then there's this moment where Gilbert says one too many things. He says,
close the door. Get over here now.
Talks to him like a child.
Yeah.
And we see that Bob has crushed the doorknob.
I'm not happy, Bob. Not happy.
He got away.
Good thing, too. You were this close to losing your...
It was so great.
The shot of Bob, holding him up by the throat. And then what's so great is that then Gilbert flies through a wall.
Yeah.
And you think that he's only gone through one wall the way they shot it.
Right.
And then the camera moves around and you see he's gone through like 6 walls. And there's Bob way in the background.
And it's one of the good reasons that this movie is so broad in its caricature style and its design style. Had this been a more realistic looking movie, had they all been more normal sized, I don't think Pixar Disney would have allowed, that to happen. But because he's so cartoony looking, it reads more like Looney Tunes Elmer Fudd.
Totally.
So even though it is emotionally a big moment and it's an important scene, it's like
it is assault.
And it is assault.
Yeah.
You can get away with it because we're in such a broad cartoony universe.
Yeah. Also, we hate Gilbert.
We hate him.
Yeah. And he ends up in traction. And then Bob is talking to essentially his handler and going like, so I guess we're going to have to move again. I mean, that seems to be the implication. And it seems like this has happened before.
Yeah.
And that guy who's his handler has been in a number of Pixar stuff. And he is famous for with Jackalope.
Yep.
The Jackalope short. He does the voiceover for that Jackalope short, which is where I first fell in love with that guy's voice.
I love that short. But yeah, and it's, because up till this point, it kind of seemed like, well, the superhero thing happened and then they all moved into this house. And this is where you're like, oh.
No, we've had a
Bob's
process.
been doing this for a while.
So I think he says that in the fight. We're not relocating again.
Yeah.
I think she says that in the fight earlier.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, we know they moved in here 3 years ago.
Yes.
And it was a lot longer ago that the superheroes got shut down. So we're back home. Who's waiting for him? Little kid on the trike. Just looking at him.
And the way the kid says this line,
it's just,
I don't know, something incredible, I guess.
And Bob's response, me too, kid.
Me too, kid.
Me too. He's in his office, and his office is essentially a shrine to Mr. Incredible. And
the glory days.
To the glory days. And he finds an envelope, and there's something that looks kind of like an iPad today.
I mean, kind of a lot like an iPad. I do love with this movie how there's things that when we saw it, they're like, look at this futuristic device that got sent to him, and now we all have one.
Yeah.
And he's got, and it
Thank God Steve Jobs was around with Pixar and Apple.
Totally. That is actually an interesting thing. This is 2004.
Yeah.
And the iPhone comes out in 2007. Huh. And they were actually developing the touch stuff for the iPad. But the iPad was in development before the iPhone.
Huh.
That's interesting. That is interesting.
So he gets an iPad.
And it does a little face match thing on it. Says, hello, Mr. Incredible. And we get our message from Mirage.
Hello, Mr. Incredible. Yes, we know who you are. Rest assured your secret is safe with us. My name is Mirage. We have something in common. According to the government, neither of us exist.
Who is voiced by the late, great Elizabeth Pena.
Yeah.
She died a couple of years ago. And for me personally, I remember this in 2004. I remember feeling an incredible amount of pride when I recognized her voice as a Latino actor, because we don't get to do a lot of these things and voice over these characters. So to see her, because I fell in love with her in La Bamba as an actress, and so to hear her voicing Mirage, and it doesn't have to be a Latina. It did not have to be. It could have easily been a white person, no problem. But they cast Elizabeth Pena, and she's so good in this.
And and she has a great voice.
Yeah, she's a great voice. And we hear that there's some sort of experimental tech that's gone wrong, and we need his unique abilities. And it sounds like there's going to be a job, and the payment is triple his annual salary. And what she ends with is saying,
The supers aren't gone, Mr. Incredible. You're still here. You can still do great things. Or you can listen to police scanners.
this is like everything he's ever wanted.
Right.
And of course, looks up at his wall.
Yeah.
At all the images of his glory days, and he's like, yeah, I'm back, baby.
Yeah. Of course, at this moment, Helen is calling him, and the message self-destructs. The smoke alarms go off, and the sprinklers go off. And then we cut to them drying books with a blow dryer, a pink blow dryer, which I think, again, is very good design.
Yeah, and this is where he kind of like lies to his wife.
Yep.
You know what I mean? This is the big lie. I've got a job, I got a promotion.
Well, I think he decides in this moment, because he says something's happened, and I think he's right on the edge of telling her, I got fired, I assaulted my boss, and instead says, I got this promotion, I'm going to go to a conference.
Well, and the thing is, to credit to her, she's trying to be understanding, because she says, you've lost that thing, she's saying to him, like, you're not the same or something like that, and then that's when he starts in on the lie and says, I'm going to convention, then she's happy for it.
Yeah, they're finally recognizing
her talents. It's so maddening, right? Because this is the bullshit that he has to deal with. I don't care. I'm a hero. Recognize my talents. They don't need to recognize. I already know what my talents are. Let me do them.
Right.
But also, I mean,
it's not her fault, right? It's just
yeah. I was gonna say, it's kind of, I think, with Elastigirl, kind of it gets to some of the bigger themes of the movie is that it's not that she hated being a superhero, and it's not that she's not good at it, as we will see later in the movie, but it's that she has accepted the way the world has decided to go and is trying to make the best of it, and he cannot accept it.
Right.
And I think that I don't know, there's something interesting about the husband and wife moment. It's like even though he's not happy, they've been doing this together, they've been a team. And we're going to get to a point later in the movie where they're a team, but this is the moment where they're not a team.
Yes. Right.
Like, he makes an active decision to not include her in this because he knows she'll say no.
Yep.
And he wants this. And I think also he thinks right now this is a one-off.
Yep.
Like, I don't think he thinks this is kind of like the moment where you're like, this isn't a permanent lie. It's not like I'm going to be a superhero full time.
Right.
There's a gig. I'm going to get a lot of money. She never has to know. I get to go be super for a little bit.
Right.
I'm going to come back. I'm going to be happier because I got my fix. There's no harm, no foul.
Right. I think you've exactly described how he's thinking. And he goes out and makes the phone call that he's in. And we end up on a very cool plane where he's getting briefed by Mirage. Yeah. There's just things about the way the glass dims and the way things are revealed. There's so much design stuff to talk about that I'm just not going to talk about. But what we find out is there's this Omnidroid 5000 that is some kind of weapon tech that they've lost control of, and they need him to defeat it, but not destroy it. Right. And it has AI that's going to learn, so you better do it quickly. And he goes, yeah, got it. And they stick him in a pod.
They try to.
Which he doesn't quite fit in.
Tons of fun doesn't fit in there.
And again, this is the fantastic meeting the mundane.
Yeah.
Is that's where the humor comes. They shoot him off down. He lands. And now he can't get out of it.
And by the way, he lands on Nomanisan Island.
Didn't remember that was the name.
The name of the island is Nomanisan Island. Which I think is just maybe one of my favorite names. I mean, Never Never Land might be my favorite name for an island, but Nomanisan Island is close second.
Nomanisan Island. That's hilarious.
Also thematically relevant.
Sure, yes. Absolutely.
By the way, then he lands, and to your point about the super meeting the mundane, I think one of my favorite shots in this entire movie is when he is running to find the Omnidroid, and there's that just moment where he does that thing that you do when you're a little bit out of shape and you're running, where you're like, You kind of lean back, and you stretch because your back is little. It's not all there.
That's what's so fun about this movie is that it was great meeting the golden age Mr. Incredible, but this guy with the bad back and he's kind of overweight and he's not in great shape. It's, by the way, what I didn't realize, and apparently Brad Bird didn't realize this until the movie was already in production, is that the design of both Mr. Incredible and of Syndrome is based on him.
That's really funny.
Yeah. If you look at Brad Bird's face, there's a lot there. But then he finds the Omnidroid and they fight.
Great action sequence.
Great action sequence. And it's a great mix of he's overconfident, thinks he's done really well, then realizes he spit off way more than he can chew and he's in actual trouble, being driven towards a lava flow.
Yep.
And then
his back goes out.
Then his back goes out, and now he's in deep trouble.
But then the Omnidroid fixes his back, so that's cool. so that's good.
Which I love. I love the little laugh, the little moment when his back when he cracks. Omnidroid fixes his back, and he goes, and then he goes inside of it and busts it up from the inside.
Well, there's that great moment. It just kind of just great comedy is when he's like, because the Omnidroid's head is on the top, but then it comes out the bottom, like it can come either way, and he's like right underneath it, and the Omnidroid's looking around, but he's like right underneath it, can't see him, and like grabs the thing and goes up in there. Like it's perfect Pixar because it's action packed, super cool, and also really funny.
And he's won. There's a little parrot that kind of is the observer, the spy camera.
The voyeur parrot.
And we hear that, this was surprising. He won. Let's invite him to dinner.
That's Syndrome.
And we hear the voice of Syndrome.
Yeah.
And we're at dinner. And Bob gets a little glimpse of his mysterious boss in, again, an unbelievable...
Also, like, lava flow dining
just
hall.
gonna say
awesome.
Lava flow dining
Which is the
hall.
James Bond vibe. Totally, absolutely.
Well, this is what I mean. It's like every single set is amazing. So we're in this lava flow dining room, and he sits down to have a meal with Mirage. I love that he's in a suit, but still wearing his mask.
Yeah. And also, like, there's just this lovely sort of flirty energy.
Yeah.
And like, what's cool is we're seeing that the spark is back with him now.
Yeah.
Like, this is not the guy who was not paying attention at the table. This is not the guy who was sitting in his cube or sitting in his car. Like, he is charming and flirty and fun.
Yeah.
Like, there's just this like great banter between them.
Yep. Here's my question. How attracted to Mirage is he?
He's super attracted to Mirage.
I think he is.
I don't think he's at all.
Okay.
I don't think he's attracted to her at all. I think he loves his wife very much. I think what he's doing is enjoying being a hero.
That's right. I love my wife very much, and I've never been attracted to anyone either.
Well, I'm not saying that.
I am not saying that I think he would ever entertain cheating on his wife, but I am saying that I think it is important in this scene that there is a beautiful, attractive woman who is feeding into all of his desires about being a hero.
Right.
Like, there in no point am I saying in anywhere in this movie do they imply that he would ever cheat on Elastigirl.
No.
But his wife, who he just lied to and is no longer being the perfect partner with, and he is now with the other woman in this movie who is telling him all the things that he wants to hear.
Right.
So I think that there's definitely that element. I think it is important.
I
think she's stroking his ego, and that
there's no question.
No, of course she is.
But
That
that's
is
all.
exactly
That's
what
I think it is.
Well, yes, but the question is how much does he like having his ego stroked like this, and how is I think in my mind. He is embracing not fantasy isn't the right word because it is a reality, but he's embracing this alternate reality and everything that comes with it. And one of the things that comes with it is a beautiful girl who is into him.
Sure.
Let me put it this way. I think what you said, what Brad Bird said in this movie, and this is the theme that keeps coming back everywhere, is this movie is about the super meeting the mundane.
Right.
And Bob's problem at the beginning of this movie is that he is living in the mundane and he's not allowed to be super. Everything about this on No Manasan is the super without the mundane. Like, he's the hero. Mirage is the beautiful woman who is telling him how amazing he is and how great he is as a super. There's lava flows, like the high tech everything. Like, this is literally the opposite. And what this movie ultimately is about is that, to me, I don't know that this is what everybody takes out of it, is that you get to have both. Like, at the end of the movie, he gets super and mundane. Like, those things come together. But for now, he is firmly rooted in super only, without the mundane, without his wife who is nagging him or all the other things that were bothering him. And I think that that's an important place for him to get to where he needs to get later.
You know what's funny? I 100% agree. And what just occurred to me, there's a line later on, which is that Helen says, your secret identity is the most valuable thing you have. And as you were talking, I suddenly went, oh, why is, because that always struck me like, well, why is that exactly? And it is through the secret identity that you get to have both the super and the mundane. Yeah. Is that without the secret identity, you're only trapped in one world.
Yep.
And this way you get to have both worlds. Okay, so, and speaking of both worlds, we're going to go back to our normal everyday world, except things seem a lot nicer now.
Training montage.
Well, it is a training montage, but it's also like the happy family montage, because now he switches out his car for a sports car. There's this great moment where he grabs Elastigirl's butt, and she does the stretch grab back from really far away. Yeah. That's why there's a little sexiness in this movie. True. Playing catch with Dash. He's going out and exercising by lifting and pulling trains.
Yep.
And one of the interesting things they talked about, by the way, is because this is the first Pixar movie that really is focusing on humans, is they had to get muscles right, you know, and the way and the muscles aren't realistic, but you see them moving under skin and under fat, and the translucency of skin and all of that stuff is really hard. And in this scene, and I'm sure you could speak to this much more, but one of the really hard things to get in animation is weight, and the sense of weight and how much power it takes to move a thing.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it all goes back to squash and stretch ultimately, like the way things move as far as like human body stuff with the muscles. But yeah, like I'm pulling on this thing, and how, when this thing lands, how heavy does it land? What does that do to the dust around it, to everything else around it? Like, to your point, everything is a choice. You can't just go, hey, let's get this big thing and drop it and film it.
Right.
You literally have to have like 12 different teams of people figuring out the physics and the effects and every single aspect of everything. Like, whenever you see anything drop, or anything happen in an animated movie, when dust flies up, when water moves, when something parts the water, anything that happens, there's like a team of 50 that are figuring that out and doing it. It's insane.
Yeah. And he's also, while he's getting in better shape, he's starting to measure his body parts. First, he's not pleased. And then there's even a moment where he starts to leave for work, and she pulls him back in.
Getting busy.
Little sexy time. And now he measures again, and now he's starting to feel pretty pleased with himself. Yeah. Except there's a hole in his suit. Which, by the way, to your point about, there was a whole team of people trying to figure out how to do the shot of his fingers coming through the hole. Oh yeah. And they said it was one of the hardest things Pixar had ever done. Wow. Was that they're like, can't he hold it up and you see the hole through? And like, no, I want the fingers coming through. Like, damn it.
Well, and that's where Brad Bird is great, and also probably drove a lot of people crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a lot of times when you're doing an animated movie, you have your creative people say, I want this to happen this way. And you'll have a whole team of technical people say, can't you do this instead? Right. It's so much easier.
Right.
And it is a big push and pull in animation when the creative people are like, no, it has to be this. And you're like, this is going to cost you this much more money. It's going to take this much R&D. Like, it's going to take 3 more months to have him put his finger through the hole. And you go, it's that important. I would like you to do it. Thank you very much. Like that is those types of arguments happen all the time in animation, and the push and pull between what you are able to do technically and what you want to do creatively is one of the hardest things that you deal with.
Well, and the nice thing with some of the stuff at Pixar is once they figure out the mechanical simulation, the physics simulation of things, well, then they can use it for other things, and it's not as hard the next time.
Right.
And one of the things I want to say about this whole montage that is important to your point, which is, so again, he is now feeling great, and he's better in his mundane life.
Absolutely.
Because he has the super.
Yep.
Now, Elastigirl just thinks he's doing better because he's finally embraced this world.
Yeah. Right.
And so she's like, oh, finally, he's letting go.
They're giving you respect at work, and you're pouring into it, and everything's getting better.
Now you're finally getting into this world after all this time, not realizing that it's really because he's doing the one thing that she was like, we can't make this happen.
But because he's got his hole in this super suit, he's going to have to go off and meet Edna E. Mode.
Edna.
What is it? Who are you? What do you want? My God, you've gotten fat. Come in, come.
It's such a great personality, and something it's a caricature, but it's in caricature in a way that's endearing. you know, and the back and forth, like even at the beginning. But even though she's kind of rude, like at the beginning, she's like, "You got so fat."
Oh
darling.
my God,
Like
you've
just from
gotten
the
fat.
beginning, seeing her big nose.
Well, this
like,
is
and
him thin. Imagine if you saw him like,
yeah,
a month
right,
ago.
exactly. So all of that is just, but yeah,
Voiced by Brad Bird.
yes.
Which is amazing to me, but also one of the greatest inventions in this whole movie.
It's one of the greatest characters in any Pixar movie, as far as I'm concerned. She's amazing.
There's been in comics, Invincible did it, some other characters did it. Like comics have sometimes dealt with the who makes the costumes.
Right.
Like in the old days, it was always like Spider-Man made his own costume or whatever, and you're like, that didn't really make sense. And they've kind of addressed that in different comics in fun ways, where there's a tailor or a person who does it. None of them hold a candle to her, to Edna Mode. She is the best.
Well, and to go back with the James Bond thing, she's also Q. So she's this weird mix of crazy fashion designer with the crazy weapons expert. The set that she lives in is this weird high-tech Greek god, palace.
Yeah.
And her constant just sort of monologue. I mean, I can't even really quote it because it just goes on, and it is so funny.
She does a whole bit about supermodels, which is hilarious.
Supermodels. Ha! Nothing super about them. Spoiled, stupid little stick figures with poofy lips who think only about themselves. I used to design for gods.
I mean, and she's got this you're right. She's got this Q meets Anna Wintour vibe.
Exactly.
She's high fashion and she's also high tech. And she, again, back to the same theme. She is miserable.
Yep.
As famous and successful as she is, and she's clearly done quite well for herself, she is miserable living in the mundane world and wants nothing more than to dive back into this. And it's like she's just been waiting for the opportunity. And Bob shows up and he's just like, it's a patch job. And she's like, this is a hobo suit. And basically pushes him into, and she does it the best way. It's like, this is a hobo suit you don't want. He's like, do you want me to make me a suit? She's like, I can't, darling. I'm so busy. But yes.
Oh, where the heck am I going to get a new
You
suit?
can't! It's impossible! I'm far too busy, so ask me now before I again become sane.
Wait, you want to make me a suit?
You push too hard, darling, but I accept.
But she's someone who wants to be wanted, but doesn't want to be overt about it, even though it's so obvious that it is, because she says, don't pressure me down. I'll do it, but don't push me down.
Don't push me.
Yeah.
But the one thing that he wants was if you're going to make a new suit, I kind of want a cape.
Yeah.
And one of the best superhero monologues of all time, the No Capes monologue, is amazing. And the fact that, again, to your point about the sets, this is a lot of things. Again, what people don't realize is the fact that they go through all those heroes and show them. Every single one of these is a set that somebody had to build.
And a character that had to be designed.
But they did
with
it.
powers they had to figure
show
out.
to show this person, to show all the ways that a cape is the dumbest idea, even though all superheroes have capes.
November 15th of 58. All was well, another day saved, when his cape snagged on a missile pin.
Thunderhead was not the brightest bulb.
Stratogale, April 23rd, 57. Cape caught in a jet turbine.
You can't generalize about this.
Meta-Man, express elevator. Dyna-Guy, snag on takeoff. Splashdown, sucked into a vortex. No capes.
Well, and this is where what's so great about this movie, and again, this is fairly early in comic book movies. I mean, I think we'd had a Spider-Man movie and an X-Men movie, maybe X-Men 1 and 2. It's 2004.
Yeah.
But not too much. But for us who were comic book fans, hearing only someone who loves superheroes and comic books could write the no cape monologue.
Yeah.
Because it is listening to that was so fun for me.
And I like that he pushes back and then she lists all the examples.
Yeah.
The examples are brilliant. And once again, dark movie. We see that female superhero get cut up by a plane engine.
Oh, yeah.
It's a kind of a darker film than you think.
I mean, it's all played for comedy, though.
Sure, if you think so.
But this is something we've seen over and over again in talking about movies is a movie can determine how you feel about the death in that movie.
Yeah.
And that there are lots of movies where clearly lots of people die and we're like, whatever. And some movies where you see one person die and it's the most horrible thing in the world.
Right.
This movie does not want you to care about those superheroes with the capes.
The Cyclone is my favorite. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's great. Meanwhile, Helen is cleaning the house and she finds a hair. And that's what's sort of interesting is we're following the path of the husband is having an affair setup.
Yeah.
And she picks up the phone and who is Bob talking to? to Mirage.
Yeah.
And Bob's just like, she asks who it was, and he says, "Oh, it's another conference, short notice." Duty calls, and he gets in the sports car to go.
You get the "I love you" moment.
Bob,
Yeah, what's up, honey?
Have a great trip.
Thanks, sweetie. I'll call you when I get there.
I love you so much.
I love you too.
And she's emotional.
Yeah.
Do you think she thinks he's having an affair?
She 100% thinks.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, that is 100% what she thinks.
Yep.
And her husband, who's now lost all this weight and in this car and in this, because let's be really clear, this is full midlife crisis stuff. He is doing all the midlife crisis things.
Right.
Well, that's because he's having a midlife crisis.
I think you're on the money.
I mean,
there.
like that. This whole movie. I mean, it was kind of something John said earlier about Pixar movies not just being for kids. That is 100% true. And one of the ways you know that is, particularly as you go later into these movies, the main character of Finding Nemo is not Nemo. It's Marlin.
Yeah, it's Marlin. And
the main character of The Incredibles is not Dash and Violet. It's Mr. Incredible. Like this is an adult story for a family audience.
Well, don't get me started on Up.
Well,
right.
That's for another Cinephile.
There'll be a lot of weeping when we do that movie in the Cine-Files. Okay, we're on the plane. He's got a nice shrimp cocktail. And we could see, like, now he's in the new suit. I had forgotten, by the way, that he doesn't go back to get the suit somehow in my mind.
Oh.
Like, we don't see him.
Yeah, you never see it. You just know that the suit has been,
Well, and the other thing is, do you remember the original Incredibles trailer? It's him trying to put on the suit that he can't fit in anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually wondered, they just do that for the trailer?
They did. Pixar used to do a lot of things that were just for, like, a lot of their early teasers for movies are things that were not in the movies.
He ends up back at our secret base. Oh, and I love, by the way, the plane flies under the water, up through the waterfall. I mean, this is the full James Bond. I mean, it really is.
And again, a lot for animation.
Yep.
Like,
Oh
you're like,
my
oh,
God.
the water. When you're like, oh, the water drained, you're like, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, water's not easy. And then we just say, okay, you're going to be briefed in the conference room in 2 hours. He's like, oh, okay, sounds good. And we're back home with Helen, and she's vacuuming at the office door. And you can see that, like...
She does the thing. She's like, oops, I opened it. I guess I'll go in now.
And she goes in, and what does she see? She sees the old suit with the repaired tear.
Yeah.
So who does she call? Edna.
Of course.
Edna gives-
And I love Edna's great. She's like, hi, it's Helen. Who? Helen? Who? Elastigirl. Die!
And Edna kind of gives it away right away.
Yeah.
You know, sort of like, I hope Robert likes his suit, you know? And Bob shows up for the meeting in the conference room, and the door opens, and there is a new Omnidroid.
The wall opens, really.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the wall.
I'm sorry. Let me say that again. The wall opens, and there is a new Omnidroid.
Bigger, badder.
Yeah.
Yep.
And of course, we see our bad guy, Syndrome, who we have not said that both Little Bobby and Syndrome are voiced by the same actor, Jason Lee,
Yeah.
who we just talked about in a very different episode of the Cinephile.
Yes, and
JC Namey.
who we got schooled on Twitter that he is no longer a Scientologist.
Oh.
He lives in Austin. He supports art, and he does he just does all this stuff in the local community, and that's what he does now. And it's interesting. Like, he probably made enough between all the stuff he's done and the TV show My Name is Earl and all this other stuff. I'm sure he's fine to just relax for the rest of his life.
And he does a great job voicing this.
He does.
And of course, at first, Bob doesn't know who he is. And then he says, remember, I'm your biggest fan. And that's when Bob starts to figure it out.
Buddy?
My name is not Buddy! And it's not Incrediboy either. That ship has sailed. All I wanted was to help you. I only wanted to help. And what did you say to me?
Fly home, buddy. I work alone.
It tore me apart. But I learned an important lesson. You can't count on anyone, especially your heroes.
And he's starting to talk about why he did what he did. And as he's doing it, he starts to monologuing.
Oh, you slide dog.
And then he has some sort of beam power. It's called zero power or something like that.
Yeah, 0 point energy.
0 point energy, thank you. And he uses it, and he kind of can do whatever he wants with Bob, and he ends up tossing him a little bit too far away.
Oh, no.
And chases him down. Bob goes down a waterfall, and he drops this little tiny bomb into the water. And Bob is thrown through a cave, and he straightens up and looks right into the face of
Gazer beam.
Gazer beam.
And this is dark. I mean,
yes,
because this is where, I mean, because like this is not only is there a dead body, there, but he hides behind the dead body to avoid detection.
That's true.
This is, by the way, when my son first saw it at 3 or 4. This is where he left the room.
Of course.
Yeah, he's like, nope. My son, his response, particularly when he's younger, to things being scared, he was silent. And he would literally just stand up and walk out. and then I'd go like, I think that's over. And he'd go, okay. And he'd walk back in. He'd say nothing. He's like, nope, I'm out of here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he hides behind Gazer beam, and he also sees the word Chronos. Written on the wall.
Yep.
Which is great because, I mean, one of the things that's fun about this movie is, I mean, again, with Gazer beam, he obviously had Cyclops powers.
Yeah.
He had Cyclops powers from the X-Men. And so as a comic book fan, you see this. So obviously you need the hero that can do that, who like literally
burnt into
the wall, his last remaining thing that he wanted people to know.
Helen has gone to visit Edna. I think this sequence is totally amazing.
Yeah, it is.
There's so much going on. There's so much happening. And first of all, just to start with, the great screenwriting of two people talking about a thing and not really understanding what the other person, what their world is.
Yes, words are useless. Come. Too much of it, darling. Too much. That is why I show you my work. That is why you are here.
Because Helen is trying to find out what happened with Bob. What's this about a new suit? What is he doing? And Edna is so excited because she couldn't stop at just making his suit. She had to make superhero suits for the whole family.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, and then the entire reveal of each of the suits is just
God.
like, again, it's classic Bond with a Vogue overlay. Like Edna kind of narrating as you go through each of these suits and seeing what they can do.
Yeah.
Well, that they start with Jack Jacks.
Oh, man.
I started with the base.
Started?
Shh, darling, shh. I cut it a little roomy for the free movement. The fabric is comfortable for sensitive skin. And can also withstand a temperature of over 1,000 degrees. Completely bulletproof. And machine washable, darling. That's a new feature.
What on earth do you think the baby will be doing?
Well, I'm sure I don't know, darling. Luck favors the prepared.
Well, I'm sure I don't know, darling.
That response is my favorite.
And then when she says, well, he doesn't really have powers, and her response is, oh, he'll look fabulous anyway. We got Dash's high friction suit, Violet's suit that responds to, being turned invisible.
Yeah.
Helen's suit that will stretch as far as she can stretch. These are pretty cool suits, and they're breathes like Egyptian cotton.
And also, it's just, there's great little things about it. Like, they're on this sort of conveyor that goes with it, and then just kind of like a typewriter almost slams back. Like
you're right.
Like Helen is just so off kilter here, and Edna, because she's Edna, she's tiny, and also that she knows what this is. She doesn't really move as much, so like they're kind of like going along with it, and then it snaps back, and Helen is just like she's completely off balance, both mentally and emotionally and physically. She's like, I do not know what's going on. It's awesome. Like little moments like that are awesome.
And there's one very important point that all of these suits have a homing device in them. And finally we get to Edna, kind of goes, what do you think? And she goes, Bob's retired. And this is where it suddenly is like, oh, Edna's looking at her like, you don't know what your husband's up to.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have this weird exchange about it too. But I don't want to jump too far ahead. But
no, it's fine.
They have a very weird exchange about it because, you don't know where your husband is, dot. Like she is she is enjoying the drama.
Well,
just like someone might who's like, don't get me involved, and then I want to be involved.
Well, we'll get to this later. She clearly does not enjoy the drama because once someone gets emotional, she is super over it. She wants her the fuck out of that house.
No, but she likes knowing that there's juicy drama going on. That's what I mean. I don't mean that she enjoys the crying.
I think she definitely wants to know what the gossip is.
Right.
Yeah.
Because she's goading Elastigirl.
Because she says, men at Robert's age are prone to weakness.
They are prone to weakness. Yeah.
And of course, while this is happening, we're intercutting with Bob. He's out on the cliff and he jumps down, grabs a palm tree. He sees like these pods that are going on these tracks. He jumps on one of them. He gets inside. We're up at the gate. And I mean, this whole sequence of how he's going to infiltrate this thing is really fun, particularly because we're going to see two people infiltrate this place because we're going to see Elastigirl do it later and do it in a totally different way. I love the moment where he sees a guy like up on a catwalk, throws a rock at him, that guy falls down, other guys rush to get him, and that's what allows him to get by. It's really fun. he makes it inside to the lava room, and he picks up this giant like Easter Island head and is going to use that to get through the lava when the lava opens up.
And it's like his imbalance in trying to like put that thing back in place is so funny.
Really is. Well, again, this goes to getting weight right.
Yeah.
He goes through this room and sees like, I love this, another great set where this pathway is lighting up to the big control panel. Yeah. And he puts in there's a big screen, it asks for a password, and he puts in Kronos.
And this is where he finally puts together everything that's happening. Why Gazer Beam disappeared, who all disappeared, and he sees that they've been systematically going through and getting rid of every hero. And it's great because you see that the most important thing for him is, do they know about my family? Like, do they know? Like, he types in Elastigirl and she's unknown. And he's relieved about that. Yeah.
And then he types in Frozone. He's up next.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too, that it's not just that they're eliminating all these heroes, is that the battles with the heroes is what's teaching
the Omnidroid.
Omnidroid to become a better version till it get to the one that we're at
you see
today.
the red mark over the Omnidroid.
You see, it's almost like it's almost the matches. You'll see like the Omnidroid one took this one out. The Omnidroid one took this one out.
Right. And intercut with all this is first Helen calls InsureCare, finds out Bob doesn't work there anymore. And then this is where we get to what you're talking about with Edna going, so you don't know where
your husband is?
Where your husband is, darling?
Yeah, this is where she says all that, and she's like, would you like to know? And this is where the homing beam happens.
Yep, and they activate the homing beam, which is, of course, the wrong thing to do, because that's when the defense system gets triggered. This is one of the coolest and weirdest these weird balls.
It's such a weird choice, and it's so awesome. It's the sticky, growing globules of weirdness.
Yeah, that he can't get them off, and it is a great struggle against impossible odds of him fighting to get out of there. And at the end, as he struggled and fought with these big sticky balls, the final shot as the balls close in is sort of a weird upside down shot of Mirage as her legs walk up. It's a really, really cool shot.
Oh yeah. And then we go back to what I was talking about, which is Helen having a complete meltdown.
Oh, I'm such an idiot. I let this happen, The sports car, the getting in shape, the blonde hair, the lies.
Yes, he attempts to relive the past.
Now I'm losing him. Oh, what do I do? What do I do?
And Edna is over it at that point. She might have liked the drama before, but she's like, get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah, basically.
Edna is over this weepy, mundane, lame
You're right.
reaction.
What are you talking about? You are Elastigirl! My God, pull yourself together! What will you do? Is this a question? You will show him you remember that he is Mr. Incredible, and you will remind him who you are. Well, you know where he is. Go, confront the problem. Fight. Win! And call me when you get back, darling. I enjoy our visits.
And again, it's this we are given the typical reaction to, in the mundane world, my husband was lying, he must be off with some woman, and I'm going to sit here and weep in a super victimized, weepy kind of sad way. And Edna Mode is like, fuck this noise, go out there, get what you want, win, you are Elastigirl.
She pulled the Godfather.
Yeah.
When
totally.
Johnny's up there complaining, oh, this never got the parts, and he starts getting all emotional. Godfather jumps up and he says, "You could act like a man. What's wrong with you? What is this? What is this weeping, crying stuff?" He's trying to shake him out of it, and then when she's slapping her in the head with the rolled paper, that's what she's trying.
And she's like jumped on a table or
something.
something.
It's an epic little scene for her.
She didn't need to stretch.
But again, it's that moment where Elastigirl stops being in the mundane world and steps back into the super world.
Right. Well, and I love too. It ends with a great button with Edna going, and then come back later. I always enjoy other things, And so we're back at the house, and Helen is leaving to go. She's saying goodbye to the kids, and I'm going to be back tonight. And Violet's in charge. And again, it's the mundane because she's giving the normal mom speech to the kids when she's going out. And there's a great moment where Mom says,
just a little trouble with Daddy.
You mean Dad's in trouble, or Dad is the trouble?
I mean, either he's in trouble or he's going to be.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then
great
Dash snags the suits.
Yep.
He's like, what is this? It's the moment where the kids are like, what's
going on?
Actually going on here? Yep. And at the very end of it, doesn't Violet touch her suit?
And it disappears.
And it disappears.
Yeah.
And she's like, these are clearly suits for them.
Yeah.
Well, and you think too, like, if you're Dash and all your life you've been told you can't be super, you can't be super, you can't be super, and all you want to be is super, and then mom has the perfect super suit that is clearly made for you. That is cool.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, mom's on the phone saying, I need a favor. You got to get me a fast jet. Cut to a jet. Apparently, Elastigirl can fly a plane.
Yep.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
She is so much more awesome than Mr. Incredible in so many ways. And she's flying the plane and she's calling the island, getting nothing but static.
Yeah.
And she looks down at the bag and opens it up, and there's the suit. And you can see her kind of debating, do I put on? Because for her, this is a big move to be Elastigirl again. And she finally decides, you know what she should? She puts the plane on autopilot. She goes to the bathroom. Meanwhile, Syndrome has Incredible up in his energy field, stasis, whatever it is. And, you know, I love that he's kind of geeking out about the fact that his hero survived. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Except that you ruined it all by calling for help.
Yep.
Because in his mind, that homing beacon, he called for help.
You found out what happened and you radioed for backup, which is not what happened, but that's what he thinks.
And they're basically torturing him to find out who he called. He's like, I didn't call anybody. But they know he called them because a government plane is requesting permission to land. And they play the radio, and now Mr. Incredible hears his wife's voice.
Yeah.
This is really, I mean, there are Pixar movies where I cried my eyes out. This is not actually one of them, but I am moved by what's going on for Bob right now.
Yeah.
And at a couple of other points in the film. And he goes, oh, well, you know, we're going to send them a nice greeting. He pushes the red button and launches the missiles. And on the plane, at that moment, that's when Elastigirl discovers that her two kids have stowed away on the plane.
Yep.
They're in the suits.
They make it clear that they got a babysitter because they're very responsible.
Very responsible.
So she calls. So she calls Kari, checks in, where we find out that Kari is watching Jack.
She's got everything under control. She's another great character.
What a great. She's got that kind of lisp. Like she's like, it's okay, Mrs. Incredible.
She has braces. It's not her fault. And she's got a plan. She's going to play Mozart for her. It's all going to be great. Yeah. It's a really funny monologue. And right in the middle of this, the alarm sounds for the incoming missiles. She says, fasten your seatbelts. Those kids do not get those seatbelts fastened.
Nope.
And we go into some evasive maneuvers. We launch some countermeasures. Man.
Well, and also importantly, she radios back and tells them that there's kids on board.
There's kids on board.
Yeah.
Because that's a big moment, not only for Mr. Incredible for him to realize that his kids are there too, but also for Mirage.
Yep.
Yeah. Because, and this is, of course, a classic superhero thing, is we have the person who maybe could be turned to the good a little bit. And now he's begging.
Call off the missiles, I'll do anything!
Too late. 15 years too late.
So what's the solution?
Bye! You have to put a force field around the plane!
You said we weren't supposed to use our powers!
I know what I said! Listen to what I'm saying now! Disengage, repeat, disengage!
Which is, again, I love that we're still in the family dynamics.
And and Violet tries, and this is a big moment because like this is the easy solution. Like you actually can prevent these missiles.
Yeah.
And it's like you're waiting for it to happen, you're waiting for it to happen as an audience member, and at the very last minute, you realize as soon as Elastigirl does, like Violet's not gonna do this.
Nope.
And Elastigirl like makes like that last ditch effort to save her kids and like just dives back there.
It turns into like some ball getting out just as the plane blows up. And one thing, by the way, just in that moment before is Dash is really scared.
Yeah.
Like there is a shot of him where it's like, oh, that's a scared little kid.
Yeah.
But they get out of the plane. She's in her ball. She turns into a giant parachute. Elastigirl is cool.
Yeah.
We land in the water.
And again, to your point about animation and water and weight, the pieces of the plane landing around them as they are underwater with their hair moving, with the water displacing them. I mean, that scene probably took that shot of the water. I mean, that probably took months and months and months and months.
Well, just Violet's hair, much less Violet's hair in water, was months and months and months and months. It's huge. And again, these are things that aren't so hard to do now, but that back then was super, super hard to do. Yeah. And the kids start panicking, and mom's just stop it.
Stop it! We are not gonna die! Now both of you will get a grip, or so help me, I will ground you for a month. Understand?
And back on the secret bad guy base, we've confirmed that Target is destroyed. And Mr. Incredible hangs his head down.
Yeah, he's done. His family's dead. And again, it's important because he realizes what's really. I mean, I think in this moment is where like you realize what's really important. Like as much as he was living this mundane life and he was craving something else, I think in this moment he would give all of it up if he could just have his family, and he would give up superheroing forever because he just wants his family.
And he's filled with rage, and he grabs Mirage, and he says, "I'm going to kill her unless you let me go."
Yeah.
And Syndrome calls his bluff, but makes a big error in that moment.
Yeah.
Like Syndrome is not wrong. He knows Mr. Incredible won't do it.
Right.
But to be so cavalier with Mirage's life in that moment, big error.
Yep.
Well, and there's this moment they're kind of walking away, and Mirage gives that one look back, and you know, oh, there's something's changed here.
Yeah.
When we're out in the ocean with the family, and Mom kind of goes, well, the missiles came from over there, so let's go that way. Wait, you want to go towards the missiles? And they say yes, and she becomes a boat, and Dash becomes sort of the outboard motor, and they make it to the beach, and Mom and Dash are exhausted, but she's proud of Dash. And later on, now we're sitting kind of by a fire, and Mom gives them, this is the straight deal.
Remember the bad guys on those shows you used to watch on Saturday mornings? Well, these guys are not like those guys. They won't exercise restraint because you're children. They will kill you if they get the chance. Do not give them that chance.
Mom.
Vi, I'm counting on you.
There's something
I'm counting on you. Be strong. Dash, if anything goes wrong, I want you to run as fast as you can.
As fast as I can?
As fast as you can. Stay hidden. Keep each other safe. I'll be back by morning.
I mean, and this is the best. I think this is my favorite speech in the whole movie. Like, this is those, especially because we're watching a cartoon, for the cartoon characters to kind of basically say, those cartoons you watch?
That's not real. Yeah.
That's not real.
Yeah.
These people are going to kill you.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. Like this, they're not going to give you a second chance. You use your powers. I mean, that's where, not only has Elastigirl stepped back into being Elastigirl, but she's had no choice. Yep. Her kids are in this world now, and she doesn't get to just treat them like kids. Like when they were back at the house and it was, okay, I'm going to go get Dad, you guys, dinner's in the oven, whatever. Now they're all in it, and she's treating them like other superheroes because that's what they are now.
And it's interesting because what they've set up is these two kids have totally opposite relationships to their powers.
Yeah.
Which is that Dash, all he wants to do is use his powers. And Violet, all she wants to do is be normal. She doesn't want anything to do with it. And that, again, great screenwriting.
And then you have that great moment where Violet chases her out afterwards and kind of apologizes for not being ready.
Yeah.
And Elastigirl tells her, that was a lot to ask you. Like that was a lot. But
great mom-daughter moment.
Yeah. And that's the first moment after that, importantly, that Violet gets her hair out of her face.
Yeah.
She kind of tells her, like, you've got this. I believe in you. Like, it's this great mom-daughter moment. Yep. And that's the first moment that Violet gets her hair out of her face and puts her mask on.
And she says,
you have more power than you realize. Don't think. And don't worry. If the time comes, you'll know what to do. It's in your blood.
Syndrome's fueling up his rocket and kind of arguing with Mirage. Mirage is sort of going, that he wasn't weak. That this is, we could see sort of the schism happening. And Syndrome doesn't really get it. He's like, oh, I called his bluff. It's no big deal.
Call his bluff with your life next time.
Yeah. And Elastigirl is now she's the one who's gonna break into the secret base.
And it's amazing.
It's awesome. Like much cooler than Mr. Incredibles.
Well, and it's just like every moment with this is amazing. The entire sequence of her getting stuck between the doors. So you got the feet on one, her body in the other room, and then her front in the other room, and then the other guys with the key cards, and just the cause and effect relationship to her elasticness.
It's awesome.
Is just amazing.
And the very human moment when she stops from the mirror and looks at her ass.
Yep.
I love that moment.
There's so many. There's that.
Very human
there's
moment.
her flattening against the wall. There's her. There's her up on the ceiling. There's her. All the stuff that she does is so cool. Back at the campfire, Vi is kind of practicing her shields and not really having such a good time. And Dash is like, I want to go check out the world.
Yeah.
And Vi's like, no, this is serious. You don't understand. We're not on vacation. Mom and Dad's lives could be in danger, or worse, their marriage. It's a great line. But Dash doesn't listen, so he heads off. He finds the cave leads to some cool tube. And that is when the rocket launches, and then a lot of fire is coming through that tube.
And Dash saves Vi and gets out of there, and they get out of there just in time.
It's the next morning in the jungle, and Dash is snuggling with Vi. Yes. And then the next thing that happens is one of those nice little birds asks them for their identification. They can't give their identification, and the alarm starts going off.
Voice key incorrect.
Wait a second.
And then, meanwhile, we think Elastigirl's about to rescue Mr. Incredible.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Mirage does.
Yep.
Yeah, and Mirage goes to free Bob, and she tells them your family survived the crash.
Yeah.
And that is just huge. And of course, he gives her a big hug to thank her.
Right when Elastigirl comes in. And again, it's just they're playing up that whole dynamic, and it's just awesome.
And Mirage kind of goes, well, oh, you must be Mrs.
Boom.
Punch right in the face.
Oh.
And what we have as now Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl go to escape this base is a long-running argument.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic.
Now our kids are in danger?
Hey, if you suspected danger, why'd you bring
I
them?
didn't bring them. They stowed away, and I don't think you're striking the proper tone here.
But I love that he has this one great line, because like she comes in so angry at him, and he just hugs her because he's so happy that she's alive, and it's this great dynamic where he's like, you're mad, but I'm just so jazzed that you're alive. I'm so happy right now. Like he's in a fight, but he couldn't be happier about it.
It is so funny and so great. And of course, at the same time, the alarms are going off, and so we have sent out the Velocipods to go chase Dash and Violet. Another fantastic design.
Yeah.
And great sound design too. And the music is just killing it here.
Well, I mean, this is where the movie really, I mean, as great as everything has been up to this point, this is where everything takes off, because now all four of the family members on the island in costume,
using their powers.
It's time for all of them to use their powers. And this is where both Violet and Dash really cut loose. And for the first time, we really see how much they can do.
Yeah.
And, you know, with Dash, it's just probably one of the most joyful moments of the movie, culminating in him running on water. Which is amazing.
So a couple things about this. The first thing is that this is my favorite sequence in the movie, and is that we've gone a long time without that much superhero stuff. The movie actually is a lot of relationship stuff and a lot of family stuff. I mean, it takes a long time even to get to Mr. Incredible in a costume, much less seeing the actual action sequence. It's that they have put in the hours building this relationship, and now we get to, and by the way, their name for this sequence is the 100-mile run. And the reason it's called the 100-mile run is that one of the things they're trying is, again, in animation, you have to create everything, is they're going, well, how fast is Dash? And so they have one of the artists doing some mock-ups of his running, and basically like the trees going by. And it goes to Brad Bird, and the trees are going by about this fast, and Brad Bird goes, no, faster. And so they do it again. Now the tree going by even faster, and Brad Bird goes, no, even faster. And then they calculate how far he's run. And then they kind of go, you know what? If he's that fast and this sequence is this long, he's run like 100 miles.
Yeah.
So this is the 100-mile run. And it's, you know, and again, it's the fantastic and the mundane. He runs into the bugs. But then he also runs on water. He finds out that he lands on the thing, and the guy takes a swing at him and he dodges it. And then the super fast punches from Dash. It is all so much fun.
And one of my favorite moments, and I don't know if I've ever seen this anywhere else, is he's running on the water and he runs into the tunnel, and the other pod comes in on the other side, and they're both coming at him, and there's that moment of peril of like, what is he going to do? And then he remembers, oh, I'm on water, and he just stops running and goes in the water, and they both explode above him, and I'm like, that's brilliant. That's amazing. And meanwhile, Violet is dealing with being invisible. And, you know, and the other thing I love is that all of these kind of nameless, faceless dudes on his island aren't complete idiots. Like, particularly this guy, like, she goes in the water, and he realizes that if he just throws sand, like, he can't see her, but he can see around her, and he sees where she is, and he's about to kill her. Until Dash comes in.
And then Dash comes along. And then Dash gets to be in trouble, and then Violet saves Dash. With her cool spherical shield ball that she's floating in.
Shield ball, I like it.
How are you doing that? I don't know. Whatever you do, don't stop.
And then now Dash is running on the shield ball, making it is awesome.
So cool, man.
And this goes to something that Brad Bird said, which is that action sequences are about character, which, man, when I heard him say that in the commentary track, I wanted to jump up and cheer, because that is like something I've been saying on this podcast forever, is that what we're seeing, there's great, amazing, spectacular action going on, but we're seeing character development and choices from these characters that move their characters to the next level throughout the whole scene. It is a fantastic, fantastic sequence. So Dash and Vi run away in their shield ball, and who do they run into but Mom and Dad.
Mom and Dad.
And then I love this reunion. This moment is so great of Mom and Dad destroying a couple of Velocipods together in awesome superhero form, and then looking at each other and
I love you.
And that kiss. And even the kids are going like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then now all 4 of them are going to fight together in a
great,
amazing, incredible, one might say, moment. And you feel like this is it. We are winning.
Time out!
Nope.
Syndrome comes in, puts the kibosh on it all.
Freezes them all. And I love his reaction like,
oh no. Elastigirl? You married Elastigirl? And got busy! It's a whole family of supers! Looks like I've hit the jackpot!
And then Syndrome shows him what's happening in the city, where the rocket has landed, the Omnidroid is there, and he now monologues a little bit to tell his plan, which is, I'm going to go save the day so I can be a superhero. And then when I'm done with being a superhero, I'm going to retire and sell all my technology to people so everyone can be supers. And if everyone is a super, no one is.
Right.
And he exits laughing. He heads off the plane to fly off. The army is starting to attack the Omnidroid. The family is watching helplessly, and Dad is admitting it's his fault.
Yeah, Dad's having his moment here.
I'm sorry. This is my fault. I've been a lousy father. Blind to what I have. So obsessed with being undervalued that I undervalued all of you.
And again, because he's realized what's really important in life.
Very important.
And while he's doing it, Violet's like, oh, I got this.
She escapes. And Dash sees her and it's like, Dash is like,
and yeah, Mom's like, shh, let him finish. Let him finish. And it's great because it's what you said. It's now, like, for the whole movie, we've either been in the mundane world or the super world. Yeah. And now the mundane and the super have actually come together and it all works. Dad realizes what's important. Mom is embracing the fact that they're supers. The kids are free to use their powers. And as a team, they really are incredible.
Incredible. And so they've escaped and they're heading to this big airplane, this big hangar. There's an RV in the middle of the hangar.
I love like the RV that makes no sense. And I love that I also love that like all these guys have all these giant monitors and things they could be looking at, but they're in the RV watching the thing. Like,
why are
I don't
you in
know
the
why.
RV popping some champagne?
They're playing a drinking game.
It's so odd. So we wipe them out and then we're like, oh, we need a jet. The jet's gone. How are we going to get there? It's like, we need something faster than a jet. We need a rocket. Well, how are we going to fly the rocket? Well, you need the passcode. How are we going to ask?
Barrage's got the passcode.
Yeah.
Hey, girl.
Say please.
Say please. And back in the city, Frozone sees the Omnidroid. Honey,
where's my super suit?
Why do you need your super suit?
This whole argument is hilarious. Like, every single word is fantastic.
Don't you think about running off to doing no daring do? We've been planning this dinner for 2 months.
The public is in danger!
My evening's in danger!
You tell me what my suit is, woman! We are talking about the greater good!
Greater good? I am your wife. I'm the greatest good you are ever gonna get.
For the greater good, I am your wife.
I am your greater good. Oh, it's so good. Syndrome is doing pretty well as a hero. He saves someone from the tanker trap. He introduces himself, and you can see he's got his little remote control wrist thing that he's controlling the Omnidroid. And what is the Omnidroid programmed to do? Figure out how to defeat every new enemy and use its super AI.
Way to go, genius.
Way to go, Syndrome. Yeah, exactly.
And knocks that controller off, and now Syndrome's in trouble.
Yeah.
Gets slammed into a building, gets knocked out, and then we cut to Elastigirl holding the RV. I don't know why that seemed like the right solution to this problem.
It's so ridiculous.
It's
and
so
it's
ridiculous.
so funny. I mean,
my
it's
God.
almost like the way, because the way they built the entire rocket with the giant circle in the middle to hold the Omnidroid. Yeah. It's almost like they did it in reverse, that they realized that this was going to be the funniest thing. The family in the RV, the most mundane vacation thing, with her holding onto the edges of a giant rocket that's hurtling them towards the city. It's so perfect.
It's so perfect. And of course, inside,
are we there yet?
We get there when we get there.
Classic family stuff. And finally, they drop the RV, crash into the freeway. And now what do we get into? An argument about
directions.
About directions. Again, the mundane. We take the traction exit. The car goes crashing, flips over and over and over again, slams into a perfect parking space, and man, Dash loved it. Let's do it again.
Yep.
They get out of the RV, and then what does Dad say? He says,
"Wait here and stay hidden. I'm going in."
Well, what? I watch helplessly from the sidelines? I don't think so.
I'm asking you to wait with the kids.
And I'm telling you, not a chance. You're my husband, I'm with you. For better or worse.
I have to do this alone.
This is the moment of the movie for me.
Yeah.
This is the moment of the movie for me.
What is this to you? Playtime?
No.
So you can be Mr. Incredible again?
No!
Then what? What is it?
I'm not.
Not what?
I'm not strong enough.
Strong enough, and this will make you stronger?
Yes. No.
That's what this is? Some sort of workout?
and the misunderstanding of her kind of going, and you think this will make you stronger? Because she's thinking about, maybe she's thinking about old Mr. Incredible, who was missing his youth and missing the golden days and needed all these things, that it's still about him on some level. Yeah. And in fact, it's the opposite.
Yeah. What I think is interesting about this moment too is because she does the typical stuff she's been doing through the whole movie. She's the driving force of the relationship. She's not necessarily emasculating him, but she's trying to get him to see things in a certain way, trying to get him to like catch up.
To accept the reality.
Exactly. Unless we're saying to him, no, what do you think is going to make you bigger? Is going to make you no.
I can't lose you again. I can't. Not again. I'm not strong enough.
I'm not strong enough to lose you again. Yeah. I can't go through it. I'm strong. Man, I cry every time at that moment. Every time, because it's such great voiceover work by Craig T. Nelson and the animation. Yeah. Because you see this large man brought down to this like smaller thing because of his feelings for her. And it's great. And she kisses him, which is a great moment too.
Yeah. And her answer is,
if we work together, you won't have to be.
I don't know what will happen.
Hey, we're superheroes. What can happen?
And now we go into like, the big final action sequence. And again, the joy of this movie is, I think, the best movies are all about patience.
Yeah.
And waiting an entire movie to see all the superheroes superhero up with Frozone and everybody. And the movie 100% delivers. Every single person on their game, using their powers together, separately, to the best of their ability, that ultimately turns into a giant game of keep away.
Like seeing all of them use their superpowers and become a team is amazing. The Omnidroid tracks, and immediately Violet is using her shield to protect them. And Dad stops the claw. Frozone appears. Bob finds the remote, doesn't quite know what to do with it. And he gets grabbed. He knocks one of the claws off of the Omnidroid. I mean, the fight scene is incredible.
Yeah.
And now we kind of figured out, like, oh, this remote is important. And so he throws the remote to Dash to run for it, which is the father and son playing catch.
Yeah.
And Dash catches it. Elastigirl catapults a manhole cover to take out the guns. I mean, they're all working together as a team. Dash is in trouble, and Frozone gets him and does the ice move across the water. It's really, really cool. Elastigirl trips the droid. Violet gets the remote, goes invisible. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Suffice it to say, they kick ass.
And the final moment where we figure out how to defeat it, which is to use the remote to control the rocket to shoot the claw and have it shoot itself, which they do, and destroy the Omnidroid, and everyone is happy.
Including the two old guys, isn't it?
Frank and Ollie.
Oh, that's how you do it.
The two old guys on the bench saying that's how you do it. That is the
two of the nine old men.
That's old school. That's the best school.
And now we're in the limo, and everyone's talking, and
Helen's trying to listen to
all the messages,
35,000 messages from Kari about what's going on, and it seems like things did not go well. And then like they get more and more frantic, and then you get like Zoloft Kari, who's like, everything's fine. The replacement babysitter came.
And so now suddenly, what replacement babysitter? And we're at the house, and there's Syndrome, and he's taking the baby and says, "I'll be a good mentor."
And it's really cool because when they run into the house, it's almost like you're in a Steadicam shot, the way that they shoot it. Like the camera's kind of running into the house with them, and then it turns and just reveals Syndrome just chilling in the kitchen.
Yeah.
It's really awesome.
They come in just as Syndrome flies away with the baby, and Jack is freaking out. And man, the next moment in this movie, I remember seeing this in the theater and just like almost leaping out of my seat when Jack's powers appear.
Everybody going crazy. And not just one power, but like 4 powers.
Flames, then like heavy metal.
Flames, like Colossus.
Lead. Yeah.
Devil baby, the monster baby.
The demon baby is
the demon baby's
amazing.
Insane. And Syndrome is, once again, here's another situation where he bit off more than he could chew with this Incredibles family.
Yeah.
He just cannot seem to win against this Incredibles family.
And then they're trying to figure out what to get. And he's like, throw something, but if I throw something, I'll hit the baby. And then she's like, throw me.
Bob, throw me!
He takes Elastigirl and just hurls her up into the sky.
Yeah. Just as Jack becomes the demon and Syndrome drops him, so she catches Jack
and then Edna was right. Capes are a bad idea.
Yeah. Because Mr. Incredible throws the car into the plane explodes, and Syndrome gets sucked by that cape into the jet, and bye-bye Syndrome.
And the Incredibles have saved the day.
And
then
who was there to witness it? Little kid on that tricycle.
Little kid got to see his incredible thing.
That was totally wicked!
And then we cut to, and this is, again, the perfect ending to this movie because we cut to another very mundane thing, which is the family watching their son play on at the track race. And it's hilarious because it's the he's running fast and they're yelling at him to run faster, but he does run faster, then they're yelling at him to slow down and go for second. And the dad's expression next to them, who looks at them like, y'all fucking crazy, like, is so great. And again, it's that they are now all perfectly happy as a family because they've embraced both sides of this life.
And also, which we kind of skipped over, they have that meeting in the limo where the guy who had first bailed Bob out and had been relocating him,
that's a great point.
He says to them, well, everything is fine now. Everyone respects what you've did. And then he says, well, does it mean we have to go back underground? Let Congress figure that out. You're fine. We've covered everything. We owe you a debt of gratitude. So they can be happy to be heroes again as well if they want to be.
Almost enough for them to have it like a sequel.
Yeah. Oh.
And then our final moment as we're celebrating after winning second place in this race is a giant drill comes out of the ground and we meet the amazing supervillain, the Underminer.
The Underminer.
Ratzenberger.
John Ratzenberger.
Well, and what's really cool.
The Underminer, man.
I mean, I know this is the end of this movie and how amazing it is, but what's great is when you watch the trailers for Incredibles 2, it's very clear that it literally picks up
right where it left off.
Exactly where like the Underminer's in the trailer.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
And the results, like I was always curious as to what they were going to do with the sequel, but what's very clear is the entire sequel is, because you guys did all this with Syndrome, it's time to bring superheroes back into the limelight. We want it to be Elastigirl.
Yeah,
she's our
right.
She's our key.
The poster girl.
She's the poster child for bringing the supers back. So I think that is, I mean, the way they've teed it up is so perfect because when you end a movie like that, you put it on like one of those notes, like the big villain comes up, they all put their masks on, and it goes into the credits, and you're like, fuck, that's great. But to actually make that work as the kicking off point into your next movie, I'm like, fuck, I'm excited.
Yeah. Really quickly on the reception, this movie was a big hit.
Yes.
Made hundreds of millions of dollars. It was the biggest movie Pixar had ever done up to that point. And of course, it won the Academy Award for the Best Animated Feature, which is like frequently the least shocking award given every year.
Yeah.
And now we've finally reached where we're going to have a sequel.
Yeah.
Who would like to give their final thoughts on
Well, I'll go first since you did some research and Michael's more the animation executive than I am. I think for me, what's the lasting legacy for me about this film is it still works. It's still damn good 14 years later. It's still a great superhero film. I don't always consider it a superhero film because to me it's more of a family film, but I get why people consider it a superhero film. So I don't always 100% agree with it, but I enjoy the fact that it's seen through that prism. And it's great to revisit it again. It's great. For me, it's the emotional moments. It's the connection between the family. It's a family that's fractured that has to come together, and they come together discovering and appreciating who they are individually and how they work together as a team. And that's what's really important to me. And everyone has their emotional journey. Violet, by the end, can pull her hair back, and she now is equal with the guy that she was afraid to see. Jack can now actually run as fast as he can. He just has to be okay taking second place.
Dash.
Dash, rather. Helen does what she's doing now, and she's more open and relaxed as well. And so's the dad. So's Mr. Incredible. He's just chill as well, and he's happy now. It's a brighter world because they've all understood. After living this kind of mundane life, they've understood how they can enjoy this life in their own way. And so for me, that's what's enjoyable about the movie. That's what still resonates for me. It's not all the superhero moments. All that stuff is cool, but it's actually the emotional connections that the family has that brings me back to enjoy the film over and over again and learn new lessons from it. As when I saw it when I was, 2004, 14, was a 40-something, or 30, 32, 33. Now, as an older man watching it, it resonates with me even more for different reasons. And that's great about the film. How about you?
To me, I just think, rewatching this film recently, it's a masterclass in storytelling. I mean, totally. I could talk about the superheroics of it and the comedy of it and everything else, but it's like, it's a movie where every single scene is so lean and mean, and every single line and every single thing that everybody says is important to the story, and everything is thematically on point. It's just like every single sequence, I'm just watching it and I'm amazed at how much they fit in to tell the story that they told. And so, like, a lot of times when I'm working on stuff now and I'm working on projects and I get stuck, and this actually happened with Incredibles recently, I was working on something and I was super frustrated, and I just watched Incredibles. And I get to the end of a movie like that, and I'm just kind of re-inspired all over again to try and tell the best possible story that I can. And this is one of those that definitely is tops for just like, this is what I aspire to be able to do one day.
Yeah, for me, I keep going back. There was a thing that Brad Bird said on the commentary track, which is he really gets upset with people who say that animation is a genre. Is that animation is not a genre, it's a medium. It is a way of telling stories, and you can tell any kind of story you want. And I think there's nobody who I think would say that you can't do animated superheroes. Obviously, we've been doing animated superheroes basically since there were superheroes. But that's not actually what makes The Incredibles great. As you say, I mean, I think that it is a great superhero movie, but what makes it great is this is a family story. Yeah. This is a family story, and we get into a guy with a midlife crisis and his wife and his two kids and all of their relationships and how that's all going to play out. Yeah. And animation does it so brilliantly. And it does it in a way that you actually couldn't do in live action, that it is a better medium for telling this kind of story than live action would be because of all the design elements, because of all the cartooniness and the caricature and all that stuff that's happening. So that's what we think about The Incredibles. Obviously, we love the film, but we'd love to hear what you think about The Incredibles, and we'd love to hear what you think about The Incredibles 2. So you could visit us on our Facebook page at Cine-Files, Cine-Files. You can subscribe to this show on iTunes or on Stitcher or TuneIn or YouTube or a whole bunch of other places. Please leave your reviews on iTunes. They really help people find us. If you want to support the show, you can support us on Patreon, and this was a Patreon pick. And so we will do your show on the air if you just go visit patreon.com/thecine-files. If you want to buy The Incredibles or rent it, you can watch things through Amazon Prime from our website, cinefiles.net, Cine-Files.net. As always, you can reach me on Twitter at SRMorris. John, where can they reach you?
You can always reach me at The Roca Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And of course, see all the work I'm doing over at Collider and all my other new podcasts as well.
And Michael Vogel, people wanted to reach you. How would they do so?
At MKToon at Twitter.
And thank you so much again for coming back. It's always fun.
It was a blast.
I'm sure hear us talk to Michael Vogel about another movie.
I think next time Michael should choose the movie he would like to talk about. We've always proposed movies to Michael, and now that he's been here a few times, maybe Michael could step up and pick a movie.
Earth Girls Are Easy.
No classic or good film.
Man.
That didn't go the way we hoped it would.
I'll come up with a good one that's not
right.
Earth Girls Are Easy,
Good.
and we'll have a really good time soon.
All right.
Sounds good.
Well, that's it for this week. We will see you next time on the Cine-Files.